don't touch anything.
It's the greatest find yet. Nothing compares to it.
But it's definitely something you should hear.
This is The Real Deal with Larry Lawton.
Welcome to The Real Deal with me, Larry Lawton, and I got a great guest in-house. I got Matthew Cox, another criminal, and his sidekick, Jess. I'm going to call you sidekick, Jess, so why not?
That's fine.
So anyway, before we get started, everybody, check us out on YouTube, member programs, Discord, everything. Check out the book, Gangster Redemption, does real good. Check out my cigars. They're going crazy. QuickandDiamondCigars.com. We have a TV show coming out, and we have a video web series on our own channel, and the whole works coming out in a few weeks. I mean, invested a lot of money, but we're going to have our own cigar show that's actually just nothing about cigars around the whole country. I'll be going to Nicaragua to go roll cigars and do a crazy shit. And check out, this is also my sponsor, Oliva. They are great. I love hanging out, dealing with the CEO, and we smoke cigars, COO. I had them both on the show, everybody. Check them out. They came from Miami up here. They do such great things. 6,100 employees. They built a school in Nicaragua for the people that are the biggest landowners in Nicaragua, that company. And they're really good people, man. I'm telling you, hanging out with those guys. Whenever we have a meeting, we go into a big lounge, drink wine, smoke cigars, and figure shit out. And that's the way I want to work. I don't want to work with like real corporate shit. I mean, as you can see, I'm not into that. So we got guys. We're gonna have a great show. We're gonna talk with Matt Cox. Now, Matt Cox's story. We're gonna go right from the beginning. He was I guess you'd call it a mortgage fraudster.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, I read so much of it, and I love stories that people figure shit out. I mean, good or bad, yes, you fucked up and whatever. You did your time. You went to prison. You actually, when I read about this, you actually showed the feds. I know another guy who did that, how it worked, and that helped him, and that's what got you out really early. And I look at that and I say, listen, I did my fucking time, and I'm lucky. I beat a life sentence. And, I beat my 924C, which is the gun charge, and they wanted everybody. They wanted Gotti, and they wanted all those guys, and I knew them. But, listen to me. The crime ended. I'm the only man ever to go away on a RICO act alone. And, listen, I did my fucking time. I lost a lot. My kids were young. My daughter was 15 months old. I got out. She's 13. My son was just turned 7, 2 days. I got out, and he was 18. So you lose this, you lose the time. But my son and I are close. He works for me. And my daughter's going to have a baby. She's 27 now. She's going to have a baby in July. My third grandkid, my son has two. Fucked up kids now. They don't get shit. Now, once you have grandkids. It's a true saying, And I still like to party, like to hang out, like to meet different people, Listen, I've been through a lot of shit. I've been shot. I've been stabbed twice. Open heart surgery, fucking multiple. I have 47 screws in my back. And I still feel pretty fucking good, And I mean, for a lot, And I look at that as maybe I'm just lucky because, I've been through a lot. And the BOP. You guys were both in the BOP?
Yeah.
Wow, this is going to be fun, man.
They're not going to help you.
No, right?
You gotta
I was just
fight.
talking about that. You're lucky to get. I watched the guy break his fucking arm. Aspirin, Tylenol, Where did you serve time, man?
Coleman, the medium and the low.
Did you know I was there? I started my shit in the penitentiaries, and then I went back to the penitentiary after I go to Jessup, and I attacked the unit manager and caused like $3,000 in damage in the office. And she fucking tell him it's just I fucking went nuts. And back to the penitentiary, and then they sent me to Edgefield, which was a bad place at that time. And Atlanta, I was in Atlanta, which was real bad. We had a kill in a month for 18 months in that fucking place. And that was when it was bad. Then they brought a warden named Willie Scott. Willie Scott was a troubleshooting warden out of Washington. All of a sudden at night, fucking, you see the whole place fucking starting, what's going on? Transfers 250 people. Just fucking on a bus, no property. You know how to be OP. Right. We'll get into that later. Let's get into your fraud. Now, I read about your fraud a little bit. It's more like just inflating values. Is this correct? Or
inflating values is one part of it, but you have to have somebody to buy the properties. So the crux of the story is that I started, I was a mortgage broker got in trouble for,
You were young then, though, pretty much, right?
When I first got in trouble, I was like 30, 31.
Okay, yeah.
I never hear myself.
You
So
can't.
now that I can hear myself, I sound.
No, you sound good. What do you
Okay.
I'm watching, and just be loud. I
Yeah,
always
yeah.
say to be loud. So if I want to like clean it up, it's
I
easy.
understand.
to
I'm
clean
not
up.
used to hearing myself. You know what I'm saying?
You don't have to wear that if you don't want.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
So I started a mortgage company. I ended up, I got married. I got in trouble, and I was, we were doing stuff like changing W-2s, pay stubs. You need, like, you could get a loan, but you don't make enough money. So I changed your pay stubs and W-2s. So now you make enough money. And then that turns into, if they call and verify it, well, if they call and verify it, then I need to be able to verify it. So now I have a phone number for your employer. And then you need to have enough money in the bank. So what do? I start making bank statements. Then what if they call in the bank statements? Okay, now I'm going to make fake banks so they can go online and check and go online and see the actual that there's a bank.
Really? Right?
A Bank of Ebor.
That's pretty good shit. I mean, you figured that out yourself,
Yeah,
pretty
well,
much.
you get caught. You keep getting caught. You get caught. They're like, "Hey, this isn't right," and you're like, "What? Oh my gosh, what did my customer give me? It looked okay to me. What was the problem?" And they go, "Oh, well, we called, we checked this out, and it didn't work out. Oh, now I know I got to take care of that. Next time they do it, I got to make sure there's a website. Got to go ahead and make sure that there's a website with a complete website so they can go to it and look through the website so it matches up with the bank. Then what if they call the bank? Okay, fine. Now I need to get a
Dedicated line.
a dedicated line so that and put it up there. So if they call, somebody answers. Now somebody answers and says, "Hey, Bank of Ebor, how may I help you?" "Oh, well, yeah, hold on. Let me look that up." So, everything, it just evolved. But eventually what happened was I was buying houses for 40,000 and 50,000, renovating them, selling them to my wife at the time in her maiden name, and then refinancing them, right, to pull out money so we could keep going. I end up, a friend of mine gets busted. They cooperate against me. They tell the FBI what's going on. The FBI indicts me. They say, "We want you and your wife." I say, "Look, she didn't know what was going on. I'll just take the charge and drop hers." So they drop her. I end up getting 3 years probation, but I can't run the mortgage company. So now what do? It's like, you can't run the mortgage company. Now I'm in the middle of a divorce. I got a couple $1,000s a month to pay in child support. I got to pay her like $100,000. So that whole thing is happening. And what I decide to do is I'm going to go ahead and start a much larger scam. Instead of, like, now I look back, I'm like, what were you doing? Like, you could have moved into your parents' spare room. You could have claimed bankruptcy. You could have started over. You could have still had a life. Instead, what I said was, no, I'm gonna bring it up a notch, which was,
I mean, looking back, you can always say that. I mean,
right. And what's funny? I usually don't even ever apologize for that. Like, I'm like, yeah, that's just the way it is. But the more I think about it, the more I think, fuck, bro. Like, just like before the program, you were saying, like, all the stuff that you lose,
Oh
And I
man, my
think
whole
about
program's about that.
Yeah, but I think about that now. I didn't think about it then, and really only in the last year or two I've started thinking.
Do you
about
have a relationship with your kids or
No,
anybody?
no, don't have a relationship with my son. He doesn't want to talk to me, and the problem is with that, it's not like he doesn't have a good argument.
No,
what I'm saying?
I'll tell you that what happened to me, and I got close with my kids, is my first wife really didn't want my son to be around that because he grew up in Brooklyn, a rough place, the mobsters and stuff. So she never wanted to visit him. Now, you got to remember, he was 7, and my reputation on the street was just like, oh, you crazy Larry, he
Right.
did a lot of shit, and it was a good reputation for that life. So he, and a lot of the dads were in jail. I mean, this is the way we lived, in Brooklyn. And this is in Bensonhurst and Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. So he and he used to get mad, like, why can't I see my dad or why can't I talk? And I'd call him. And I also did something. I wrote them and did actually homework with my daughter, who was 15 months old, never knew me. She never knew me.
Right.
She knew me as he's out in Vegas, he's a truck driver this month or a year. But what happened is I told myself and I told my son, listen, when I get out, I'll explain it, and that's it. Because I didn't want to go bash his mother right there. I'm in jail. You're not going to win that argument. You can't get on the phone and do anything. And we're all right now of everything else. And I get why she tried to do that. But, I mean, I think you could always repair a relationship with a kid if they sit down and talk to them.
Yeah.
Well, unless there's something fucking really deep-deeded. No,
I was going to say that's really the problem. Is it's exactly what happened. Like, when I was locked up, by the time I'm locked up, I've been on American Greed. I've been on Dateline. He's 6, 7, 8 years old. Your dad's a bad person. I don't think she helped me out. But then after a few years, I think she kind of changed and said, listen, something's going on. This is not the same person that I was married to. But by that point, he kind of dug in. He's stubborn. He dug in, and he never got out of it. And so I've tried. We've texted back and forth. I've done. And while I was incarcerated, I wrote the letters. I drew pictures. I did everything that
I
I
heard
could
you're
think
some
of.
artist too. It said.
Yeah.
I mean, I read that.
I mean, I made some solid attempts. I've been making attempts. Maybe it comes around, maybe it doesn't. But you get to a point where it's like,
fuck it, I got to live my life.
right. Well, you can only kick yourself so much. Like, look, I kicked myself enough. If it's going to happen, it's fine. I keep reaching out. He either responds or he doesn't. And maybe something happens someday. And if it does, great. And if it doesn't, well, then I'll be all right.
And keep doing that. That's
Yeah.
the greatest attitude. Like I don't kick myself anymore. A lot of people, you tied up 100 people. You fucking, you did a lot of bad. You're right. I did.
Yeah.
It's over. I can't change that. It's
Right.
over. I don't regret a thing. People say, you don't regret it. Listen, would I change things? Of course. I mean, Bill Gates said he'd change fucking things. And the guy was was the richest man in the world. Everybody would, in hindsight, change life. But in the meantime, you got to say to yourself, I can't fucking be one of these people that are just, down, I'm a fucking loser. Fuck you.
Yeah.
We got to move on and say, listen, keep trying. Because they're not as mature. I don't know how old your kids are now.
He's in his early 20s.
Yeah, he's in early 20s. He's still a fucking kid, obviously. Do you have one kid or?
Just one
One.
that I know of.
Do you don't even get along with the ex or no?
I actually get along great with the ex.
Yeah.
The ex loves me to death. Like, listen, she came to see me almost the whole time I was locked up. After several years, her current husband has come to see me.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I was friends with them before I took off on the run. But you're off on the run for 3 years. You get caught. You get, it's nothing but bad stuff that's coming out, and it didn't. It ruined that relationship for he and I, and we'll see.
Take it a little louder if you could. Just because if I make them too sensitive,
Right.
then we hear the other shit from the fans and the fucking shit.
Right.
And that's why I said just speak, because I look at the
Okay.
that's cool.
No,
it's great. I mean, you don't listen. We all made choices. We all fuck up. We would make different choices. Everybody in the room. I don't care even people who haven't got caught, so to speak.
Right.
Most people I say everybody's a criminal. That's the truth. Everybody is.
Yeah,
It's just
I always
what
say
level.
I always say everybody will under the right circumstances, everybody will commit a crime.
Oh, absolutely. I had a police chief. I'm the only ex-con in the United States with an honorary cop, and I don't like cops. They know that. I mean, listen, it's not about I don't like them. There's too much. Listen, you give a person that kind of power, and they abuse it, and they say absolute power.
Yeah.
Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and so I get it. But there was the police chiefs in Missouri, where I'm just so fucking cool. He used to sit and talk to me. I said, I ain't losing my reputation by being, because I have a good reputation in the street. He goes, no, I get it. But then when I find out, he goes, Larry, listen to me. I will commit a crime. If it meant feeding my family and I had to do it, I'm going to fucking commit a crime. I'll rob you. I said, that's the honest, most fucking statement I've ever heard from a cop, or anybody. And it's to this day, we're good friends. And, what you said is so true. So now you go away for your time. You get caught.
Well,
now wait. Let's get back.
well, wait a minute.
Yeah, we're gonna get back.
Wait a minute. So what happened is when I was on probation,
For the first thing, I'm surprised that the feds picked your first case up.
Well, it was mortgage related. It was bank fraud. They have to pick it up, right?
Yeah,
like
sure.
it's like
We're
it's
wiring,
like
a bank robbery.
Yeah,
wire fraud.
I'm wiring money. I'm convincing banks to wire money from New York, California, wherever they're located.
What does that kind of charge carry federally?
I mean, you can get up to 20 years on bank fraud. I mean, on wire fraud.
Really?
Yeah, up to 20 years.
Does it matter? It has to mean something with the amount of money. I did the law for 10 years. It's a lot to do with that.
The amount of money. It's how many victims. Is it sophisticated meat? You know all the enhancements.
Yeah.
It's not the money. It's the enhancements that kill you.
Oh, absolutely.
So.
And you had no record before this.
Right, I had no record, and there was no money loss. So they were trying to tell me, like my first lawyer, I pay him $75,000, right?
Boy,
and he's convinced me that I'm probably going to prison for 3 years, and because he says there's $500,000 in loss, and I'm like, what? There's no loss. There's no potential for loss. Like the house was always worth more. the point is that I end up, there is no loss, no potential loss. I end up taking a plea for 3 years. And what I do is I decide to commit a larger crime. So what I decided
While
is,
on probation.
yeah, of course.
Right away?
Yeah, probably before it's really kind of started before I was even on probation. So what happened was I decided I'm going to start flipping houses, right? And I'd already been doing it, but the problem with flipping houses is you buy a house for 50,000, you put 20 in it, you sell it for 100, and maybe you make 30 after closing costs and all the other stuff. Maybe you make 20. So it's like, okay, this is going to take 4 months. I'm going to make 20 grand, and it's hell. So, okay, you got to do multiples of these. And so, the real problem is these houses don't even appraise at 100,000. So I need to get them to appraise higher. So then I thought, here's what I can do. If I start recording the comparable sales in the neighborhood higher, then I can get
The comps, they
the
call 'em,
comps,
yeah.
get my appraisals higher. And I thought, yeah, but people in this neighborhood have horrible credit. It's Ybor City and Tampa. So I thought,
Cigar capital of the world.
yeah,
of the United
I
States.
used to have
It
an
is.
office right in front of the only current cigar factory in Ybor. Still,
I'm going to that place. Matter of fact, I have a lady who was just
it's
calling me today.
amazing. It's amazing. It's really cool. They'll take you up on top of the roof and everything. It's super cool.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. I had to mention that because we're going to be going there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great. So actually, there's a building in front of that. I had an office there, like a sub office.
Wow, so that's Ybor
Yeah,
City. That's
yeah.
a party place too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of clubs and shit. I love that place.
Yeah, we bought. Listen, I owned a ton. I owned I owned over 100 vacant lots, and the FBI said we flipped 109 properties doing what I did. Borrowed like 11.5 million, and what I did was we start recording the value higher.
Right.
Well,
Now you're supposed to be paying taxes on that recorded value now, right?
right, and that's exactly what I did. When I recorded the value higher, you pay the extra doc stamps. That's how you get it to go from instead of it's like,
Let's say it's 100,000. You want it to be 200,000.
right. So if it's 100,000, you pay 700, or you pay $700 on for doc stamps. But if you pay 1,400, they'll record it for 200,000.
Gotcha.
So I'm buying houses for 40,000, 50,000, and I'm paying the doc stamps on 200,000, 250,000, 210, 190.
Knowing you're just going to get a loan on that at that appraised value,
Right.
right?
But
Up to 80%, I assume, on a mortgage. They're not gonna
sometimes 90, 80, 90, 95%.
Wow.
Because here's why I say that, because I wasn't getting those loans, and I wasn't getting people to buy the houses, because the problem is the people in those areas have bad credit. They don't have down payments. They're major problems. They'll quit their job 2 days before the closing. Like, they're just idiots. So I can't deal with them. So what I need to do is I need straw men. I need to create my own straw men. And what I do is I create synthetic identities. I figure out how to get Social Security to issue me Social Security numbers to children that don't exist. So I make a fake birth certificate, fake shot record for a 10-month-old girl or boy. I go to Social Security. I give it to them. I tell them that my kid was born with a midwife at home. He's 10 months old, and they give me a Social Security number in the name of this
Kid.
person that doesn't exist.
Right.
This fake birth
Yeah,
certificate.
but doesn't a Social Security go back to a kid? I mean, age-wise, or no? I don't know if it does.
No, they randomly issue you a Social Security number. I've got the birth certificate is for the kid doesn't even exist. I'm naming these kids like
No, I get that, but
Right.
doesn't even Social Security say, can't they look up my Social Security number and know how old I am?
Oh yeah, you mean yes, they can, but all Social Security was doing was issuing the number. They know the kid's 10 months old. So he's
Gotcha.
born July 7th, whatever. 2001, 2005, 2007, whatever was made him 10 or 11 months old. Under 12 months, because if he was over 12 months, I got to show up with the kid.
Gotcha.
I can't
yeah.
walk around. I don't have a
And you
1-year-old.
figured that out by just trial and error, or
No,
just
I called Social Security probably 8 different times over the course of a day. Sat on the phone for 45 minutes waiting for someone to answer,
Yeah.
and just kept asking the question. I started with, I don't have a Social Security number. She's like, how old are you? Yeah, that's not possible. Like, it was like, fuck. So you hang up, you call back, you go, okay, I'm the victim of identity theft. Okay, great. You have to provide this, provide this, provide this. And if you have a long-standing history of your identity being stolen over and over again, and all the police reports will issue you a new Social Security number, and you have to come in. But I'm not coming in. Like, no. So that's out. Okay. And so I start going through the whole thing, and I finally get to children. And then it was, okay, well, your kid's how old? Oh, he's 5. Okay, well, great. Bring him in with your, okay, call back. And finally, I was like, oh, he's out of the country with my wife. He's in Brazil right now with my wife, but I need a Social Security. I need it issued. It was never issued. He was born with a midwife. Oh, was he born in a hospital? Yes. Well, the hospital issued it. Damn it. Hang up the phone. So you just keep calling back.
Trial and error,
Right.
man. Wow.
Eventually, one of the women says,
Resistant.
one of the women eventually says, so your child is out of the country, born with a midwife, never had a social security number issued. Correct. And she said, okay, well, she said, how old is he? And I said, he's, 2 years old. And she goes, oh, well, see, if he was under 12 months old, you could just come in with his birth certificate and shot record. But because he's over 12 months old, we have to have you bring him in. And I went, hang up the phone, call back. Hey, I've got a 10-month-old son. Yeah, I go through the whole thing. Born with a midwife, at home, never had social security. You'll go through the whole thing. Boom, boom, boom. And she goes, oh, just bring in the birth certificate and social security. You're never going to get the same person. And a birth certificate and his shot record, fill out an SS5 form, bring it in. And that's what I do. I walk in.
Now, you did it yourself?
I made a birth certificate.
I'm saying you walked in all these people, different offices, I assume.
Yeah. I walked. Initially, I did one like in my name, like for like in mine. Then eventually I figure out how to get the DMV to issue me social or driver's licenses in other people's names. So I could go in the DMV and they would issue me an ID or a driver's license in the name of
whoever you name,
whatever. Yeah.
Fucking smart, man. I mean, and it's like relentless. I mean, you took the effort you did to me. I fucking did a lot of effort in casing and stuff, but I used a fucking gun. You know what I mean? You're smart.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you got a gun, I might get shot. Like it's funny when you go to prison and you start talking to these guys. Like they would talk about drug deals and robbing people and stuff, and I'd be like, "That's insane! Like you could get killed. You could this like it." And they would sit there. They'd go, "You walked into a bank with fake stuff, sat down for an hour and a half, answered questions, and walked out. You didn't know if the cops were coming. You didn't know, but I did know." I was like, yeah, but I did know. I knew this was correct and this, and because I own the mortgage company, I know what they're doing. I know how they're figuring out if this is correct or not. So I felt comfortable. Because I knew how the system worked, I could take advantage of it. So I never was concerned. Even when they were like, well, we're going to call right now. And I'd be like, call them.
Right.
And so I knew they're going to call. I've already got somebody waiting to answer.
But those guys will tell you about I felt good with a gun. I mean, I knew what I was doing.
Right.
And so it's like kind of the same feeling.
Right, but I don't.
No, I get it.
No,
I get that. No, 100%.
I walk in a room with a gun. One, I'm not sure I could shoot anybody. I'm not really in danger. I'm in their house or I'm in their place. And then two, what if they have a gun? Like, trust me, I'm running.
That's the smart thing now. Maybe I robbed drug dealers. We did every fucking.
That's even worse. They've got guns.
Well,
like
listen. I used to tell them I was me. I said, you should know who I am. If you fucking even open I'll fucking come back and kill your whole fucking family. And they knew we come from a really violent bunch of guys, so they understood that this can happen. And they usually move after you rob them. I mean, they fucking take the hit and go. That's just the way we were doing it. And listen, like I said, I look back on my life, and I'm fucking so happy I'm here. I mean, I'm so happy to be alive. I think we were talking to friends. They go, how many lives? Cat 9 lives. I think I fucking got 7 gone already. And so I'm all right. If I drop dead now, I'd be, I lived a hell of a fucking life.
That's funny. I kind of feel the same. In a way, I feel the same way. I feel like I've had a good run.
Yeah, exactly.
I wasn't a great guy, but
yeah, but you know what? You are. A lot of times, a lot of people I ask about that, and they'll say, and I find out they like animals, they like certain things. They could be the biggest dick to whoever the fuck it is. People come to me and say, hey, man, Larry, talk to my kid. Oh, he's really the devil. He's this. I sit down and talk to the kid. He hates his parents for whatever reason. This could be a lot of reasons. And I thought, man, you see, I just bought this fucking dog or a cat, and oh man, that's beautiful, man. Find out he likes something. He's not really lost.
Right.
It's just you got to direct his fucking attention to that positive thing, not the fucking maybe the dad who raped the motherfucker or whoever knows. There's a lot of issues that go on and fucking crazy shit. Believe me, I dealt with it. I deal with a lot of kids and a lot of issues with families, so it's nothing surprises me. Really doesn't. I was abused at fucking 11 by priests, the fucking scumbags, So there's so much bullshit that's out there that you have to say, what the fuck? But live your life, like you said, Now, so now you intrigue me because you did such groundwork on getting identity theft. That's really identity theft, is what you did.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It's synthetic identity. It's funny because here's what happens. it ultimately becomes bank fraud. It's like, look, is it illegal? It's illegal to get those social security numbers. So that's social security fraud, right? But that's nothing. Like, you're not going to even go to jail for that.
Right.
But if you use it in furtherance of bank fraud, well, or a fraud, well, then it becomes bank fraud. And that's what happened was I was building blocks. Like, I took those social secure. I always say
Social security
so
numbers.
the short version is socias. So I took those socias and I would then pull credit with them, right? So I would apply for, let's say, a Chase Bank. So I apply for a Chase Bank credit card. I get denied, of course, but I don't say the kid's 10 months old. Instead of saying he was born in, whatever at the time, 2005, I say he was born in
89.
Well, in like 67, whatever, close to my age. So let's say 60, 69 or 70. So July 7th, 70 or 71 or 69. And then so I apply for several credit cards. That creates a credit profile. So now, even though he gets denied, he's not getting a card. Now the credit bureaus say, okay, there is a person out there born July 7th, 1970 with this name, James Red, and he applied for a card and we turned him down because there's no credit scores. Well, now there's a profile though. It doesn't show up saying, where it used to show up, it would have shown up saying no record found. Now there's a record. He lives at this address.
And I saw you use names like colors. That was
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
Well,
easy to remember.
Well, and did you ever see Quentin Tarantino's
Absolutely.
Reservoir Dogs?
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah,
Pink.
Yep.
I loved Quentin Tarantino, right? Like, and so anyway,
he's great. Fucking Pulp Fiction.
Oh, Pulp Fiction's amazing.
Amazing.
That was an amazing film. So anyway, so it's like it's like James Red, Brandon Green, David Silver, Billy Blue, William Blue. So I'm pulling credit under these guys. They're all being denied. But what happened is I would then turn around and I would get secured credit cards in their name. So I'm going to get the card.
Right.
I put up $200. Back then you mailed it in.
Right.
So you print it out, fill it out, mail it in.
Mail
weeks
a
later,
check, $200, not even money order.
Yeah, money order. 2 weeks later, you've got a card. Then I get 3 cards because I know what the underwriting guidelines look for. They're looking for 3 trade lines. So I get 3 credit cards. I make the payments, and in 6 months, I've got credit scores, and I've got 700 credit scores in all these guys' names.
How did you learn that part of it? Just because your previous job as a mortgage
because I own the mortgage company.
So understand how to credit bureau, because I think they're criminals themselves.
Right.
They fucking arbitrarily can do anything the fuck they want, not pull something, not put it in there. They're under no regulations, and they fuck you over.
Well, I think it used to be it's more regulated now, but 20 years ago, remember, like, you would pay something off and then they'd report it again, or they'd sell you'd say, okay, well, this is 10 years old, you can't even report it, and they'd sell it to another collection company. They go, well, we just bought it, so it's a new 7 years, and like, that's bullshit. This is 15 years old.
Well, we
now.
used to do that. We used to get credit rating, build them up, and then just say, fuck them and blow them.
Right.
Fucking get them for 30 grand, 40 grand. They'd call you up. Hold on. Boom, you leave the phone there and fuck with them. One thing we did to fuck with them was they'd call up and guy'd say who he is, and he'd say, excuse me, hold on. This is Detective Johnson, and there was a murder at the scene. What's your name? We'd like to know, how do you know Mr. Lawton? Let's say it was, yes, we're going to need your name, number, and we're going to have an investigator come out and talk to you. Click. They fucking hang that fucking phone up,
So
probably he's a fucking criminal himself already.
What you're saying is similar to what I did. So here's what we figured out. And there was me and some of my brokers and stuff. We would sit down and you start talking.
Sure.
You're all sitting and say, what about this? What would you do about this? Well, why would they keep looking? Like, what could stop the investigation? So
is that when you wrote your book?
No. This I'm talking about before I ever went to jail.
Oh, but you wrote a book. No,
Shark in the Hole. Yeah, I wrote a book.
No, not that book.
Oh, you mean the Associates?
The Associates.
Right. I was listening to John Grisham all the time, and I did start to write a book.
I loved him, man.
I did start to write a book when I was before I was even locked up. Did you know that?
I want to say yes, but
I
it's
see
not.
that? Yeah.
So
I do my research.
Yeah.
So what happened is I would build up these guys, and then I'd have them buy a house for $40,000.
Right. These fake people.
Right. Record the value of the house for $200,000. Refinance the house. The house looks like it's worth $200,000. The bank can send out an appraiser. They'll say it's worth $200,000 based on the comparable sales. And I'd refinance it. I'd get the bank to lend me $180,000 because the guy's got perfect credit. I can make a W-2, but W-2s, pay stubs, verifies employment, show that he's got money in the bank, show that he's been living at the same place for 5 years. He just bought the house. He refinances it. He pulls out 120,000 or 100,000 or 150,000 in cash.
So you become really a master forger too. I mean, really. I mean,
Yeah.
right? Does anybody ever fucking like take a look at these documents?
So I get shit for this all the time. I have a degree in fine arts, so that's what my degree's in.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh yeah, people are always like, "Oh,
Because you were dyslexic.
yeah, I was dyslexic, and I couldn't get there was just no way I was going to be able to get a business degree, and I couldn't pass those classes. The only class I ever got a C in was accounting 2, and after that I was like, yeah, I'm never going to be able to pass these things. So the easiest one for me to get was obviously a fine arts degree. So I got a fine arts degree, which helped me out in the end. So what ended up happening is each one of these synthetic identities would borrow about $1 million in mortgages on 5 different. So you get 5 different houses, 6 different houses. Each one you borrow 180,000. That's like $1 million. So I end up with like $1 million in these guys' names, pulling out 600,000 out of each one, plus.
And now you have cash if you want cash, correct?
Yeah, everybody always says that, but like cash is hard to get out of the bank. I mean, I'm sure you know that. You walk in and ask for $20,000.
Today it's crazy. I did that the other day. Well, we have to wait. One bank I left because they said, well, it's going to take a day or two. Fuck you. It's my fucking money.
Right. But
So-
that's just the way. And here's the thing: 30 years ago, that might have been, maybe it was easier, but even 20 years ago, it was difficult. I can only imagine now. So,
Right.
so most of that time, there was no reason for me to remove the money from the bank. Why would I? Nobody's looking for this guy. And here's what I did: once I would make a few payments on the house. Guy owes over $1 million. Of course, I would also get about $100,000 in credit cards. So, whatever, it's got 1.1, 1.2 million. And I stopped paying. But I've made some payments. And I would go and get, this was back when they actually had newspapers, physical newspapers. So
My mother still reads one every day.
so I would retype the article in a newspaper for, let's say, a 15-car pileup on I-4 or I-75s, saying that somebody was injured and they were life-flighted to Tampa Bay Hospital. Well, I would just put my guy's name in there, James Red. And then I would print it out on newsprint, make a copy of it, write a letter from James Red's sister. And
What a fucking thinking, man.
well, and mail it
Like
in.
that.
So you mail it in. So you're getting these letters, and now suddenly you respond, "Hey, I'm James Red's sister. He was in a massive car accident. He's in a coma. The doctors say if he even comes out of the coma, he'll never work again." And they would just stop sending them the letters. Like, they just start the foreclosure process. Like, so you gave them a reason, not like, "Hey, this guy disappeared. We need to get in touch with him to explain the situation." No, we know what happened.
Now, would it take a certain amount of time before you did that? Because you want to milk it as long as you can, right?
Well, I would always make at least 2, 3, 4 payments. Sometimes you'd make 6 payments. It wasn't matter. I just pulled out $150,000. I can make 6 payments.
Sure.
But of course, it's 5 or 6 houses, and each one you're pulling out $150,000. They don't realize that a fraud's been committed. You made 6 payments. The guy got into an accident. Everything in his credit went bad. So obviously, this was catastrophic. And what are we going to do? Even if we contact him and serve him or whatever, like, what are we going to get? We're going to get nothing. We're going to take the house
Yeah, they
back.
write it off.
Right. Well, they take the house back. They try and resell it for what they owe. There's no way they're getting what they owe. And keep in mind, too, while I'm doing this, other investors are swarming into that area, buying up everything because they see these comparable sales for $200,000. So they think the houses are worth $200,000. They're buying up $40,000 and $50,000 houses for, 60,
So you fucked
70,
up the
80.
market in an area, really.
It's listen, Forbes magazine said that the 33605 zip code, which is Ybor City, was one of the top fastest growing zip codes in the nation. Top 20 fastest growing zip codes in the nation.
And it was you.
And it was me. It was because
I fucking love that shit.
so the same time that happens, I've got like 100.
Don't listen
I've done
to
over
this
100 of
Nick.
these. So I've done over 100 of these. And keep in mind, I got caught periodically. Like we would.
And what would happen when you got caught? I mean, obviously nothing.
Like the bank would find out something like
Forged something or did something.
or maybe they didn't figure it out right away. Like I would say, "Hey, I need you to make these payments. Like we just pulled out 100,000. I'm giving you 40,000, but I need you to make the next few payments." And you just forget. You forget to make the first payment. So the bank looks into it. Next thing you know, the bank's making phone calls. Next thing you know, I've got a mortgage broker who did the loan in her name, calling me saying, "Listen, the bank just called. They said that this guy doesn't exist, and they're going to call the FBI." So then I call as that person and say, "I need to talk to I need to talk to the owner of the bank," and they put me right through. I'm so and so. They put you right through.
Oh, right to the head guy in the bank.
Right, and they're like, "Oh, we've been talking about your case or about your file, the foreclosure. We're going to start foreclosing. We're going to hand it over to the FBI. We don't even believe you exist." And so I would sit there and say, "Listen, let's not get crazy here. Here's what I can. Let me just pay you the money back." And then they would say, "Well, we'll get the money back when we foreclose." And I'd say, "Well, you're not going to get the money back when you foreclose because the house is only worth $40,000." They go, "No, it's worth 200." I said, "No, it's not. It's not worth 200.
You're actually talking to the head guy.
But why
like
not?
This.
It's that, or I just say nothing and they send it to the FBI. So instead, they let me pay them back $140,000 that I owe them.
And then they call the FBI.
But they didn't. This actually happened twice. One time, a third time, I refinanced, I think 2 or 3 duplexes. They caught us, and we just refinanced them, pay them back.
Before with another place, and
Right. They don't care. Like, you think WAMU cares? Washington Mutual doesn't care. They just want their money back. But listen, one time we got caught with a couple $1 million in bad loans for a company called Pinnacle Bank Corp out of Chicago. They'd already sold $1 million in bad loans. They still had us on $1 million. This was for the mortgage company. And I said, "Look, I don't have $1 million." And they said, "Look, just promise us that if we get caught, or if these come back on us," is what they said, "you'll help us get rid of the houses." Absolutely. Because they were like, well, nobody wants the FBI coming in and looking through their files. They're all doing something.
yeah,
sleazy.
your taxes, some shit,
Right.
right? No question.
So, or even worse, who knows what their people are doing on the inside? Plus, it's predatory lending. You're charging people 9%, 10%. You're going into poor neighborhoods.
Best case scenario, they're in the papers for being fucking a bunch of
Right.
scumbag.
And now suddenly there's FBI's looking through their files. Or there's a fraud investigation. Like, they don't want to be involved. They just want to.
I had a buddy who was a manager of a bank, and he automatically robbed like $2 million. Knew he was going to get caught.
Right.
It was Citibank in Manhattan, and he was the manager. And he knew what they were going to do. They didn't want it to get out into the fucking public that their manager fucking stole money. This is down Wall Street area. They fucking just made him sign an NDA. Could never talk about the shit again, and couldn't be a banking business. He was, "Fuck that. I'm done with this shit anyway." And he got away with it.
I just did an interview with a guy who was picking up money at ATM machines. He worked for like Loomis Fargo or something, and he came on my thing and admitted that he got caught stealing not even a lot of money. It was like 10 grand. But they found out. They said, "We know you did it. We're just going to fire you." They're not calling the FBI or calling the police. They're not doing. They just don't want anybody to know. Just go. Just get out of here. You can't come back.
Wow. And that's your show, which is the Matthew Cox Inside True Crime Show.
Right.
Right. It's your YouTube.
Right.
Okay. Cool. People got to go check it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was going to say. So anyway, that happens. So I borrow, like, while on probation, I borrow $11.5 million in all these different people's names.
And now this is on the probation from the original fraud.
Yeah, the original 3-year probation.
And how long into the probation did you get like 11 million? Year, 6 months, year, 2 years?
18 months, probably 18 months.
In 18 months, you actually had $11 million.
No, I had borrowed 11.
Borrowed 11. Okay, let's say you could have liquidated. Let's just say you could have liquidated that for $7 million.
No, I keep in mind, I'm paying people, and we're buying lots. So, okay, so you're right. If I could sell the lots, and I could sell that, like, we're buying lots, we're building new houses. So everybody's always
You're
like,
legitly building.
Yeah, because we're trying to take the money, and I'm trying to build at that time, nobody ever asked me this. I was trying to build a legitimate business. Like,
that was my next question.
Right. Like, I wasn't going to steal forever. I'm trying to build a development company, and we're building new houses.
You're just getting the capital to get legit.
That's exactly it. That's where, the real estate, remember the real estate agent, we saw at the gym the other day. That's where he came in. So
that was like an inside joke there.
Because he was told me, he's like, "Please don't mention my name again."
Oh.
He's like, "You mention my name, people call me, they send me emails." So, but yeah.
Give me his name. I'll really slam him out there. No.
He wants to. He really.
Oh God,
I know.
So what happens is so he's making money, you're making money, the investors are making money. We're buying new properties.
Buildings
we're
are making
build-
money. Everybody's
right.
making money.
So when I left, we probably had a couple million in the bank, but I literally, when I took off on the run, I had a friend who was a sheriff's deputy, and we'd done $500,000 to $1 million in getting him into properties, right? Like it's all
I saw that.
yeah, it's like, listen, I've done loans for doctors, lawyers, like-
Congresswoman Janice Cox or Janice Cruz.
oh, Janet. Oh, yeah, Janet Cruz. I don't think she's doing anything. Is she? She's not a congresswoman.
Or she would
Is
said
she?
something. Yeah,
She's a Yeah, she was in
politician.
politics. Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, did she become a congresswoman? Anyway,
you need that for the pardon.
yeah, I can get off probation. So, what ends up happening is, he shows up and he's like, "Listen, man." He's like, "I got an issue." He said, a buddy of mine had been arrested in Orlando and had been working with a task force. And he comes to me, he says, "Look, there was a task force put together a few months ago." He said, "Somebody got arrested in Orlando." He said, "They're working with the task force. The task force was just handed over to the FBI. His FBI is coming to arrest you in a few days." He knows this because he used to date a girl that was on the task force.
Oh shit! You
And-
talk about even lucky.
Yeah. And his name had come up. So because his name came up, she came to him and said, "Stop talking to Cox. Like
That's how he knew.
right, they're gonna arrest him. I don't want you to get in trouble. Your name came up because there's a bunch of properties in your name." And he was like, "Okay." And I'd just been helping him buy properties without any money down. He had perfect credit. But you can only put down 20% on an investment property or 5% so much. People just don't have hundreds of thousands. He could maybe bring 30,000. So I was helping him get his money back and then a little bit to renovate the property. It's totally legal, but either way, he ends up with whatever, $500,000 to $1 million in properties.
600,000 is what the thing said.
Oh, is it?
I'm just gonna go.
So he comes to me, he tells me, and I'm like, okay. And I think he only kind of came to me and told me because he was like, what do I say?
Mm.
And I was like, just blame it on me.
And
You-
legit, you say
Right.
you're a legit guy.
Yeah, you didn't know. You're not a mortgage broker. You came to me. I arranged for the loans. You showed up and signed. That's all you know. You provided your W-2s and pay stubs. You don't know if this is fraud or not.
Now, did you always have, like, I used to have plans like, how did you meet the person? Always, because that's the first question the FBI always asks. How do you know that person? My thing was, I said there was a John Rodriguez. There's no fucking John Rodriguez in my case.
Right.
That's why I'm the only one ever to go away on a RICO alone. And fucking,
Because John Rodriguez was also indicted?
well, there was a John Rodriguez. There was no John Rodriguez.
Right.
So the FBI ended up indicting me 6 years into my bid. They fucking literally, I'm in prison in 96. In 2002, I get another indictment for the same thing
what a
that
bad day.
Bill Clinton did, which was 18 U.S.C. 1001, filing a false statement. I cost the FBI over $1 million in investigation fees in Miami. How many John Rodriguez you think are in Miami?
A lot.
Fucking right, the name Rodriguez in Miami, and they fucking investigated them all. They came in with a hand truck and all this shit with paperwork. Anyway, but that's why I know how that works with the. So go ahead. So this guy doesn't know. You say to him, "Hey, listen, we met at the gym, or we met at."
No. He legitimately.
You had a bulk. This is after you were on probation, right?
I was on probation, but I met this guy when I was running the mortgage company.
So he still think you could say.
Yeah, he can say, I came in there for a mortgage. His real estate agent had suggested me. We met. He bought some houses. He bought some more houses. He bought some more. Like, you're able to come into my place, and I'm able to get you a loan on a property, and you walk away at closing with 30 grand.
And I want to do it again.
Right, of course.
Sure.
And you
sure.
renovate the property.
Legitly. Yeah. Right.
It's
Well,
not legit.
I know what you're saying.
But to him, he has the ability to say, how am I supposed to know if this is legit? I went into a mortgage brokerage business. I filled out some paperwork. The guy said, show up for closing. I showed up for closing. Well, you're supposed to bring a 20% down payment. How am I supposed to know that?
I get a
I'm a
VA loan. It's none.
Right.
It's
Well, I'm a
2%.
sheriff's deputy.
Right.
And back then there were 100% loans.
Right.
So he's like, there's 100% loans. Like, the fact that he's getting money back, he could always say, and this, when we had this conversation, I was like, look, he's like, well, what about the money that I got back? I go, the money you got back was for renovations. It's a construction loan. It's just they gave you money for renovations. And if they ask you if you knew that was correct or not, say, How would I know? I went to the mortgage broker. He said he could get me
Why isn't it?
right. I could buy the house. They would give me money for renovations. Like
And I got good credit, so I figured, why not?
Yeah. How am I supposed to, so he never got in trouble. So, so I was like, thanks. I appreciate it. He goes, what are you going to do? I said, oh, I'm leaving. Like I'm already on probation.
Gone.
I'm done. So I end up I run up all
Within the next day, you're gone.
No, first I got out about 80 grand in cash out of my bank. And like you said, you just can't go cashing checks. Right. I'm writing people checks. Go cash this check for $7,000. Go cash this check for $8,000. Go to this bank account, get me out $9,000. Get me out. So I got 80 grand. I run up my credit cards over the weekend. I leave Sunday night.
With more cash, as much as you can take.
Right.
Everything with cash.
Right. With this chick that I had been dating maybe a month or so. and I go with her.
But she gave good head, man. Holy
Must have been fire.
She's God, she was, and listen, here's the problem is like, I barely know her. She's on her best behavior the first month. Like she turns out she's bipolar. She's absolutely insane. And I told her exactly what was going on. Like she actually comes to my house. We were supposed to go out on a date like Friday night. She just shows up because I hadn't called her all day. If I didn't call you all day, you wouldn't show up for a date. This chick drives all the way to my house. Like, cause she sees the money, she's thinking, I can't let this guy get away.
Yeah.
I'm throwing all my clothes into duffel bags. And she's like, what's going on? I'm like, oh yeah, shit, our date. Yeah, listen, that's not going to happen. I got some issues. FBI is going to be arresting me soon.
And I'm out of here.
This is probably not going to work out. So, and I'm throwing the stuff and she's like,
see her face.
oh, she immediately, when I explained the whole thing, she's like, well, I'm coming with you. I mean, I'm in love with you. Like we're in love. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's okay. Didn't expect that. Like I like you. You're nice. Like we've had sex a few times.
But wait a minute, you took her? No.
Listen.
That's one of the big fucking mistakes.
You know what bothers me is that like I just told you all the things I did, and that's the only mistake you think I made.
Yeah.
Like listen, that of all the mistakes I made, like this is minor. Like bringing her with me.
I don't know. A fucking bitch like that on my fucking coattail could be pretty bad. I might have buried her somewhere.
But you always know, whenever I would get to prison, because this shit causes me problems like you can't believe. We're talking about screaming at 2 a.m, getting the cops calls like these, and I met guys in prison that would be like, "Oh, I'd have just killed her," and I'm like, that never occurred to me. Like, what do you mean?
Get rid of her.
It just did occur to me at one point. I was like, I mean, really, my only option, like, I either leave her or I kill her, and I'm like, and I just was like, I just can't do that. Like, I'm just gonna leave, and I tried to leave several times. Oh, but I even told her, like, listen, do you understand you're acting so insane? I'm daydreaming about like how to get chloroform and choke you out.
Her that.
Yeah, I'm trying to get her to calm down. Listen, I sent this chick to a psychiatrist. I got her on Zoloft.
This is on the run.
On the run. Well, keep in mind, the first thing we do is we go to Atlanta. So we go to Atlanta. We buy.
And 2 years, and she ends up telling everything. She ran because her conscience hit her, is what the paper they said.
I don't think it was I think it was a 5K one.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
But what?
I think he's talking about.
He's talking about Becky.
Right.
Oh, are you talking? He's talking about Allison.
Right, the one that
Yeah.
wanted to clear her conscience.
Yes,
That's actually true. No, that's actually probably true.
Yeah, 2 different girls.
Because she never got.
So you're not a really good picker of girls right now.
No.
You seem nice. I mean,
and Allison's super nice. Like, you know what I'm saying? Her problem was she's like, look, it was 2 years and I'm just waiting to get arrested. Like, she's like, I just want to just plead guilty. I want to get this over with. And I get
some
that.
people can't handle it.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, but Becky, we go on the run. We go immediately to Atlanta. Go to Atlanta, rent a house in the name of a guy. The owner of the house's name was Michael Shanahan. Yeah, I was going to say, okay, was Michael Shanahan.
This is before Tallahassee then. Because you came back into Florida after Atlanta.
Yeah, I went to Atlanta. While we were in Atlanta, we also hit Tallahassee.
Got you.
While I was there, we rent a house and we satisfy the loans on the house. So we create fake documents saying that the 2 loans that this guy had on his house.
Are more fake people that you found? Or did you have like a whole list of fake people? But you can't use anything in your own name. You know you're on a lam. You can't use a credit card. That's got to be all tough.
No, by that point, I actually was stealing people's identities. Like by that point, I'm running ads. So I'm running ads saying, good credit, bad credit, no problem. home loans available, apply now, free applications, call this number. People would call up and they'd say, hey, I got some bad credit, and I got a repo 2 years ago. No problem. We got a program for that. Let's go ahead and pull your credit. And no matter what they said, I don't care what they go. I just claimed bankruptcy. Perfect. We got a program for that. Let's pull your credit. So I get their application, and then as I get their application, I just ask a couple more questions than would typically be asked, which was, what was your mother's maiden name, and where were you born? And now I have enough to steal your identity. So I would then apply for their birth certificate, and I would apply for their social security card. I would register to vote in their name, get those documents, and then I would create a lease agreement, and then I would go into a DMV in a state where they never had an identity or a driver's license. So you might have to drive over to Alabama. And so I go to Alabama.
Could be anywhere, Tennessee, all those states.
Right, as long as they didn't have an ID there, because I don't want to go in there as John Smith.
And they look him up on a computer. And
his picture shows up. And they're looking at me going, oh, really? Yeah. Hold on a second, Mr. Smith. And then they
Good question on that. Have they changed that where they're crossed a reference anymore?
No, it's a hub system. Because the federal government never gave the states money to come up with a nationalized system, they all have to come up with their own. Well, the problem is they don't all have software that is compatible. So the federal government came up with a hub system. So if in Florida, I want your driver's license from Tennessee, I send a request to the hub system. The hub system requests a picture. The picture then comes back to you to Florida. So it takes a few days. So if they said, oh, give us a couple of days, I know right then they think something's wrong. They're going to order something.
And you just don't come back.
Right. Yeah, you don't come back. But that didn't happen. So what ended up happening was I was going into the DMVs, getting driver's licenses in real people's names.
You got some organized mind just to keep track of all of that. I mean, I know what you do. You get good at anything like that. But it's still like, okay, I got to get up today. I got to go to motor vehicle. I got to get that number. I got to do this. Okay, today I'm going to do this. So it was work. It's in its own regard.
No, I definitely, you're absolutely right. But I think it's like, I was kind of, think of like you can't read about how to ride a bike. You have to ride a bike. But once you're riding the bike, within 2 days, you're doing wheelies and you're riding with no hands and you're doing all kinds. So, once you get emboldened. Like the first time you're scared to death, probably the first time you go in a place. But once you get in it, you're like, oh, not only did I get in, I got everything. Next thing you know, you're going into, it's convenience stores, then it's, grocery stores, then it's jewelry stores, then it's banks. Then it's
straight to crime.
Right. But it's a building block, right? Like I get little tiny things, and it's like I got more and more emboldened, and then of course the arrogance. I'm super arrogant in general, and if I'm getting away with stuff, then the narcissism just blew up. Like I just
can't catch me, motherfucker. Yeah.
Listen, absolutely. Like rules, like those rules are for other people. They're for little people. They're not for me.
Boy, wake up call there, man.
Yeah, until the judge is looking at you going,
oh,
yeah, listen, man.
Yeah, and a federal judge, they don't play.
No. Not even nice about it. Like
they don't give a fuck. So now you're in Atlanta. You're on the run with this crazy broad.
Right.
You get rid of her.
I got rid of her after I was running a scam. Like we get about 400,000 between Tallahassee and Atlanta. We get about 450,000.
Now you're taking cash again. Now it's all cash.
Yeah. Now we're getting, because we're opening up bank accounts in fake people's names. So you got like 10 bank accounts. You can pull out 3,000, 8,000, 5,000, 7,000, 9,000. You can get out $500,000 in
over
2
a
weeks.
month.
Right.
Yeah, over a month. So
right. So you're pulling it out. And then if they called, hey, there's some guy here who's trying to cash a check for $8,000. She's the one who's answering the phone. She's like, oh, yeah, that's the guy. That's it. Yeah, I'm putting an addition on. And, yeah, I think his name is, John. And, oh, it's fine.
Okay.
Like she opened the account a month and a half ago.
Got money in it.
Got money. They're calling to verify. It's fine.
Good.
So we drain the accounts. We take off. We go to North Carolina. I go to South Carolina. I buy a couple of houses, satisfy the loans on those houses.
Actually, a legit deal. When you say satisfied the loan.
No, I create a fake satisfaction of mortgage.
Again, forgery.
So, there's nothing. Like this whole thing, at this point, you can forget about it legally. No.
Yeah. Why would you do it? Yeah, I was going to say, why would you do that?
No, even like cars, if I'm buying a $70,000, $80,000 car. Like I'm getting a loan because could I buy it cash or could I buy it? I have 100,000 in the bank account. Could I just, use your debit card or yeah, I could, but it's easier to show up with a couple of pay stubs and let them call Becky and her verify that I work here. I've got a 700 credit score or 750 credit score. You can see that
Here's
I'm
the loan.
right.
Here's
Right.
Here's
Yeah.
5,000 down. I
Right.
want this $80,000 Beamer.
Exactly. Yeah. Why would I give you 70,000? I'm going to drive the car. I'm never going to make a payment. I'm going
Right.
to drive it for the next 3 months, and I'm going to leave it at the airport. So, what ends up happening is we end up going to Columbia, South Carolina, buy 2 houses, borrow $1.3 million. I borrow like 5 mortgages on the same house, in the name of a guy named Gary Sullivan, and which was by this point I'm surveying homeless people.
Yeah, I
So-
saw that. Yeah,
so-
you getting their social security numbers.
Look,
and-
look at the judgment.
I love it.
So I'm stopping these.
Nah, I mean, there's no judgment here. I don't judge anybody. I don't give a fuck.
She's just looking at me like,
She's liking it. You're making her wet.
stop. Jesus.
I'm teasing her, of course.
Um,
I'm sorry. I won't offend you. I might offend you.
Oh, you might offend him.
So-
Oh.
So I'm surveying people, right? Homeless people, right? Like I got a survey. I go in and I've got a little badge that says I work for the Salvation Army, and I walk out and I say, hey, my name's James, whatever. My name's James Red. I work for the Salvation Army. I'm taking surveys to determine where we place our next homeless facility. Would you mind taking a survey? And they're like, oh, I'm not interested. And I go, it pays $20 cash right now. It's 17 questions. It'll take all of 5 minutes. So you got $20 cash right now. Right now. I'll give you $20 cash right now. Yeah, what do you need? Name, date of birth, social security number, where were you born, mother's maiden name. But I just okay, great. You ever registered to vote? You ever been in the military? You ever had a passport? You ever had this? You ever no? Okay, perfect. What states have you had?
Actually, they're perfect.
Oh, they are
I mean,
perfect.
You know,
They're perfect because not only that, most of them don't even have bad credit because they have no access to credit at all. So they just have nothing. They don't even have well, I had one guy, actually Gary Sullivan he had some medical bills. So I paid off the medical bills and his driver's license. I think he owed like $400 on a suspended driver's license. I paid off the $400 and then I ended up getting an ID in his name. Now that I think about it, got an ID in his name in South Carolina, met him in Nevada. And so what had happened was I buy these houses in his name, refinance the house 5 times. Each house I got 5 or 6 mortgages on. Borrowed $1.3 million, pulling out money out of different banks. Probably have half a dozen banks. Well, maybe 7 or 8 banks.
now you walking around with like just bags of cash, really.
Well, I mean, you're only getting out maybe 20,000, 30,000. Then I just give it to Becky and we hide it. We've got it hidden all over the place. And so
You must have trusted this woman.
I mean, where can she go? What can she do? Like
I know bitches will cut your fucking throat.
by this point, she doesn't want to go to. Already, you understand too. They're looking for her. Like there's wanted posters with both our pictures on it.
Yeah, you're on America's Most Wanted.
We
I
were on
was
the
on- I was
Secret
on-
Service. Secret
I-
Service was most wanted.
Oh, I was
Yeah,
on America. One of the episodes of Most Wanted in Florida. They did a reenactment and shit. And all like that. But they didn't know who I was. But they did a whole fucking reenactment.
You know what's funny? The FBI was trying to get me on America's Most Wanted, and at that time they didn't do white collar criminals. About a year after I got caught, they did the first white collar criminal, and then they started doing that. But they actually tried to get me to do it. They
Yeah.
contacted them. They said, "Yeah, we're not interested. We only do like violent criminals." Or
Yeah,
we
not
do-"
enough views.
Right. So, anyway, I end up getting caught in a bank there. So I get questioned in a bank. He goes,
Now, when you're questioned by a manager or some shit, right? Not a cop.
No, a cop. I went up to the teller. I said, "Hey, I need something like $6,000 out." And I'm waiting, and she goes in the back room, and it was a new account, so I know she has to call and get authorization for anything like over $3,000. It takes a couple minutes. So she walks in the back room, and I'm waiting and waiting, and all of a sudden, a cop reaches over and grabs my arm. I go like, you go to turn, and the other one grabs the arm. And boom,
Oh, wow.
you're cuffed, and it's like,
Oh,
this
fuck.
this is bad. The first thing he said was, Mr. Sullivan, follow me. You're being detained. And I was like, okay, what's going on? He's like, Mr. Sullivan, I'm not sure yet. I was just told to detain you. And they walk me in the back. They sit me down. He says, a detective will be coming to see you. And I'm thinking, because there have been so many newspaper articles by this point, there's been 10 articles at least. I'm thinking, and I kept hearing FBI, FBI, and I knew the Secret Service was looking for us in Atlanta. So, but I for some reason kept thinking the FBI was coming to see me, but it wasn't. It was just a regular detective. Not that it's not bad enough, but he walked in, but he was like probably in his 30s, early 30s, maybe in late 20s. He looked young, and he said, "Look," he said, "Wachovia Bank, the fraud head of the fraud department called us, and they said that you're running some kind of a scam. You've borrowed like 3 loans on this house, and I actually had 5 loans, really more if you include the ones that I satisfied." So I was like, okay. And he goes, so you actually have 3 loans on this property. And I go, is that illegal? And he looked at me and he goes, I don't know. And I remember thinking, I'm walking out of here. Like, you don't know.
Yeah.
And so you clearly don't know what's
Now,
happening.
do you know anything about the law really at this point?
No.
Right.
No.
You just you weren't in the joint. You didn't think like that.
Right. So all I knew was he had a complaint, and they get me they get on the phone with Wachovia's fraud department, and this guy starts going back and forth talking to him. Well, he's like, ask him this, and he's asking me, and I'm answering the questions, of course, but they think I'm Gary Sullivan. So I'm answering the questions like, golly gee whiz, I came to the bank and I applied for a loan, and the loan officer, she gave me a loan, and they're like, yeah, but you got 3 loans, and I know, okay, he only knows about 3. And I was like, right. Why do you have 3? I was like, well, because she said that I could only get out like $100,000, but she had a friend at another bank that could get me a second mortgage. Okay. He's like, okay, that makes sense. And I said, but then she could only get me out, so much money. And she said, well, it's fine. I know somebody that can get you a HELOC. Now, all of these are first mortgages, by the way. So none of this makes sense, but it doesn't say that on a loan. The placement of the loan determines whether it's a first, second, or third. So, and he's like, they're all first mortgages. And I'm like, man, I read those documents. None of them said first. They said first. None of them said first, second, nothing. Like, they were just loans, which is true. So he's screaming at the detective to arrest me. I want him arrested for fraud. And he's saying, I don't know that this guy did anything. And I'm going, look, man, what makes more sense? A guy that worked for a labor company, which I had a card that said I worked for a labor company. I said, I'm a site manager for a labor company. So I work for a labor company. I wouldn't know how to do this. Or does it make sense that a guy that works for a labor company just convinced 3 banks to lend him $500,000, or that some bank loan officers figured out how to get me $500,000? Like, what makes more sense? And he went, yeah, I don't think this guy could do this by himself. I think you guys have a problem at the bank. And I was like, that's what I think.
Oh, shit. What a fucking great con.
So he's sitting there and he's like, yeah, he's like, well, what are you doing you're pulling out all this cash? And I was like, well, I work for a labor company. We hire a bunch of, guys. I said, I don't know if I'm not saying they're illegal, but we cut them checks. They typically have to go get their checks cashed. These guys charge them like 10%, but I know the checks are good. So I just cash them for free. I do it every 2 weeks or every week or so. And if you ask for more than $20,000 out of a bank, like, they give you a hard time. So I come in and I'll get like 5,000. Like, he doesn't know what I've got at other banks. He only knows this bank. So I've only taken out maybe $10,000 in the last week or two.
Yeah,
like,
it's not even a lot.
Right.
Like, under 10 is they don't even report it. It's 9,000, whatever. It used to be under 10.
Right. So I'm sitting there telling him that, and the cop's like, no, I understand. That makes sense, Gary. That makes sense. And now he's calling me Gary, and I'm calling him Richard, and, or Rich. And, so we're cool. The guy on Wachovia is losing his mind.
Fucking crazy.
And so what's funny is I actually had a real state ID. So the guy from Wachovia is in California, and he says, listen, this is a scam. His ID starts with 000. It's a scam. And which was a mistake on his part, because the detective said, no, our IDs start with 000. And I looked at him and I go, oh, come on, bro, what? Now I'm not Gary Sullivan? I go, what are we doing here, man? And he sat there and he goes, yeah, I know, Gary, just hold on a second. Yeah, listen, I don't think this guy's done anything wrong. I'm going to take him downtown. We're going to fill out a report. I'll talk to the DA. I'll let you know. We'll contact you. You need to fill out a complete report anyway. We don't even have a charge. We don't even know what to charge him with. So I then get up, and this is
Now, are you cuffed at this time?
Yeah, I know. I asked him too, because he told me, he said, okay, Gary, you're detained. I go, well, I feel like I'm under arrest. And I showed him the cuffs, and he goes, you know what? Take those off him. So I was out of the cuffs. And I got out of the cuffs, but I remember thinking I could run. the guys are huge. Like the two deputies are massive. They're like 6'1", 6'2". If they didn't just reach up and grab me by like this, like they're gonna catch me before I get the door. And they didn't close the bank down. Like there's a whole lobby of people staring at me through the glass in the manager's office.
Yeah. Somebody's gonna play hero
Yeah.
or some shit.
Yeah, and not just that. Look, I'm not getting far. I'm probably not getting across the highway. I'm just not gonna have. I'm not outrunning a helicopter. I'm not driving. I'm not driving a spaceship.
But you don't also want to go downtown.
What? No, I went downtown.
They took
What
you downtown?
choice do I have? Like
Did you follow them or did they bring your car?
Yeah,
or-
but it's like the deputies. I'm sorry, the investigator was in front of me. I think the deputies were behind me, so they kind of escorted me. I don't think they meant to do. It just kind of ended up like that. He may have been like, "Look, follow this guy." Like, I
but
don't
it
know.
seemed like you didn't. So you
Right.
go in, you do.
I go in, I fill out the police report, I sign. He asked me to wait in the hallway. And when I'm standing in the hallway, because there were cubicles, and he said, I can't leave you in my cubicle. Come here. Can you wait in the hallway? I said, sure, no problem. He goes, I have to get the lieutenant to sign off on this. I said, okay, no problem. So he leaves. I'm in the hallway. And while I'm in the hallway, they have wanted posters.
And you're
My
on it.
wanted poster, it's the only color poster. Everything else was black and white. And I remember looking up, seeing like, this guy steals bicycles. This is a car thief. They're looking for a couple rapists, some murders, fraudster guy. And this guy, and I was like, and I mean, I'm like kind of turning around as this guy like walks up behind me. He's, hey, Gary, you ready to go? I was like, yeah. And, and I always get this too, by the way. People are like, why didn't you take off when he left you in the hallway? But you've been in a police station. You're not getting out of a police station. Like I'm on the second floor. They had to punch in a code to get the elevator to go down. You were buzzed into two doors to get into it. Like you're not leaving. So everybody's like, why didn't you do this? What
Played it out, man.
But
but they also didn't.
They didn't know. They
diligence,
didn't, right?
Don't check things out.
And
Little departments are like that too.
I was gonna say the FBI. I remember the guy said that he was so calm. He wasn't in a hurry. He wasn't. But the truth is, I'm telling you right now, my heart was just
coming out your chest.
And I'm sitting there like, yeah, I'm like, what? Did you grow up here? Like, I'm asking questions. I'm like, what would an innocent person do? They'd ask questions.
You got to try to act as cool as
right. They're curious about a police officer.
It's like driving a car. You don't drive speed limit. You drive 5 miles an hour, 7 miles an hour over the speed limit.
It's funny. I always say that whenever we're driving and you see somebody driving like exactly 65 or 55, I'm like, now that guy doesn't have a license.
Yeah, he's either an illegal or no insurance or some shit. I say that all the time too. And it's true. But that's close. I mean, you want to talk about getting close to court.
Well, it's so funny because everybody always thinks like, boy, that took guts. Like by the time they grabbed me by the arms, I had no choice but to just keep going.
Play it out.
And so what ends up happening is he walks me outside and he says, listen, Gary, he said, I talked to the DA. We do have some questions. He said, do me a favor. He said, I'm going to get back with you. He goes, do me some favors. He goes, don't leave town. I said, bro, where am I going? I said, I own 2 houses here. I'm not going anywhere. And he goes, I said, honestly, there's a problem at the bank. And he goes, okay. I get in my car.
Gone.
Drove straight to 2 more banks, pulled out more cash. The third, I know, listen, even now, I think, what were you doing? Like, by the third bank I walk into, the two of the tellers almost bang into each other trying to run for the phone. And I was like stopped halfway through it, and they're all looking at me, and I was like, nah. And I turn around, get back in my car, and as I'm leaving, one of them runs outside to get my tag number. So I drive, I get on the interstate, I go all the way back to Charlotte. By this point, Becky has already relocated to Houston because we were wrapping up the scam. We just borrowed $1.3 million. We'd only got out like $600,000. So, and you also think, I'll throw this in here too. By this point, I've got multiple IDs. I've got multiple passports. We've been to Jamaica. We've been to Mexico.
I mean, just on vacations, going back and forth.
Right. On passports issued they were issued by the U.S. State Department, but in different people's names.
Sure, fake.
Right. So, I go all the way back to Charlotte, pack up my stuff in a U-Haul, drive all the way to Houston in the U-Haul, get into a huge argument with Becky, and we start arguing. I'm like, look, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't. You're insane.
Now, who has the 600K?
She's got it somewhere in the apartment. And so I said, so as we're arguing back and forth, I end up, saying, okay, whatever. And I pulled out like 30 grand and I said, here. And I gave her 30 grand. I said, all right. I said, that's, whatever. And I kind of walked off to go like, whatever, get a sandwich. And she turns around and walks off. And I run up to the bedroom and spot where she's going, and she like walks in and sticks it into a box, and I'm like, boom, I want the money. I want to split it up. We're done. And she's like, what? And I grab the box and pull it out, and we start, and I'm like, I know we have like 500,000-600,000, and we start arguing. And this, you're gonna say, oh, you've got to be insane. But as we're arguing, she's telling me, you can take $10,000 and leave. I'm keeping it. And she was like, because
She tells you that.
right. So she says that, and I'm like, you're insane. I said, look, I want half. And she's like, and I said, I'll just take it. And she goes, and do what? She said, how far do you think you're going to get driving that U-Haul van that the cops are going to be looking for as soon as you walk out the door? She's saying, I'll call the cops.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so we go back and forth. And I told her, I said, if I take all that money, I don't need that fucking U-Haul van. And she was like, so we go back and forth, and she ends up saying, 100,000. And she goes, listen, just hear me out. She said, I need to live my life on this money. You'll take 100,000, you'll have $1 million in 6 months, 2 months, even by yourself. And I was like, she's got a point. I was like, she was useless. So I take 100,000. I always say this. She actually didn't give me 100,000. I later counted it, and it was like 97,000. But it's fine, and I'm still irritated about that. I'm still like, I can't believe
That bitch stole $3,000 from me.
And 30,000 of it
Oh
was
my
money that I
God.
gave her. Like, I gave her 30 grand. So just to find out where it was. So she didn't give me anyway. The point is, I get in the van, I drive back. On the way back, I haven't really talked to anybody in Tampa. It's been over a year, almost a year, I think. And so I call home, talk to my mom.
Now she knows you're on the run. The FBI's been there.
They've been there. Yeah,
Sure,
U.S. Marshals,
sure.
everybody. So I call. I end up calling.
Did they try to convince you to turn yourself in and you'll fix it and all that shit?
What's so funny about my mom is that she's like, I would like to see you, but I understand that you don't want to go to prison. She's like, but I understand. Like, she never really begged and pleaded or anything, or please turn yourself in. It was never like, she's like, look, I want to know you're safe. She said, but I understand that you don't want to turn yourself in. I understand that. And that was really it. She never it was funny because my mom ended up being so much tougher than I ever thought she was. Does that make sense?
Like my mother.
Right, exactly. Like
Unbelievable.
you can't she was so sweet and soft growing up. And then the things that she said and did as I went through this was like, wow.
Yeah, my mom lost her two children. I lost 2 sisters, 2 grandkids. Talk tough. I remember coming in the house one time. I put $1 million of diamond shit on the bed. And my dad used to hide money in this garage. Had spots for it, 50,000, 100,000 all over the place. And I showed my dad. He goes, "Oh, be careful, be careful." He didn't tell, listen, I've been a criminal. If I grew up that way. So then I said, "What about Mom?" He goes, "I don't know." I said, "Hey, Ma, come on in here." So she comes on here and she goes, "Oh my God. Oh, that's nice." It's so funny how they are, but they're tough, man. They really are. Those women back in the day, like my mom is 90. She's born in 1933.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say she grew up in the Depression era.
Oh,
Like they're not.
Fuck. They
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah,
they're
they've been
just
through
tough.
hard times like nobody knows.
No, yeah, and we think we have, and no matter what we've been through.
Yeah.
And they're tough, man. Raised 5 kids and the whole works, typical.
Yeah.
Family in New York. But go ahead. So now your mom doesn't try to convince you. You call back to Tampa.
Yeah, so I talked to a bunch of, I called a friend here and a friend there. Talked to this one.
You ever think they could be wired, or maybe there's a reward and someone's gonna say,
Yeah,
"Fuck it." You know what I mean? Like,
No, I know. Listen, I already know everybody's quiet. I'm reading the newspaper. Like they're talking to Dave Walker. They're talking to this guy. They're talking to that guy. Like everybody's already talking. I know that.
right?
And they're all blaming me. and like we didn't know, I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
It's like you were running the loan, you were doing all the loans. Like
Fucking-
you never met one of these. You never met Mr. Black. You didn't meet Mr.
The
White.
greatest.
You didn't meet Mr.
Blue.
Blue. You didn't
William
meet-
Blue.
Right, right. The title people are saying, look, I only know that the guy that shows up here to check the ID and let him sign. But the truth is, nobody ever signed up. Nobody ever showed up. There was nobody showing up at the closings. I'm walking in saying, I'll bring it to him. You're handing it to me. I'm signing everything. You're bringing it back. You're notarizing it like you saw him. Yeah, it's all fraud. Like, and I'm giving you a
because
kickback.
everybody's making money,
Right,
right?
I'm giving you a
Listen,
kickback.
That's what life,
Right.
the way life goes.
So, but anyway, I end up calling a broker, and she says, look, I talked to the FBI agent. She wants you to call her. So I called the FBI agent. Her name was Candace Calderon. And she goes, at least talk to her, see if you can, maybe you can turn yourself in. Maybe you don't have to do that very much time. Maybe it's not as big of a deal as you think it is. Like, I'm thinking I'm going to get 5 or 6 years. Like, looking back, it's like, what a dream. Like, would have been great.
Right? No shit. When I
So-
was facing life, it was like, what the fuck did I hit? But I
Well-
mean, I was caught.
So,
The
well,
helicopters and all that shit.
so I call back. And when I call back, or when I call this woman, she answers the phone. And
You say, hi.
I say, hi, this is Matt Cox. And she goes, hi, hello, Mr. Cox. We've been looking for you. I said, oh, okay. I said, I understand you've been asking around. I said, I talked to Susan. She goes, who gave you my number? I go, Susan Barker told me to call you. She says, oh, okay, well, good. She said, I need you to turn yourself in. And I went, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And she said, okay, well, she goes, let's talk about this. I said, okay. And she said, maybe we could work out a deal. And I said, okay, well, what am I looking at? She says, well, that's not really how it works. The way it works is you turn yourself in and we take that into consideration at sentencing. And I said, listen, I'm not doing that. I said, so unless you have an actual offer. She's okay, well, wait a minute. I can't.
They can never do
Yeah,
it.
I can't.
People think they can.
Yeah, the FBI, she's I don't
They
have
no
authorization.
power to do shit.
Right.
U.S. attorney does, obviously.
She said, let me call the U.S. attorney. And she goes, let me call the This is so funny, too. She goes, let me call the U.S. attorney. And I said, okay, I'll tell you. What first happened was we start going back and forth. Like, she's really cocky. She said, well, you're better off turning yourself in than have somebody catch you. And I went, no. I said, nobody's going to catch me. She goes, oh, they'll catch you eventually. I went, really? And she goes, yeah, we're about 90% sure of where you are. I said, well, only 100% counts. And she goes, and she said, oh, she goes, you were so, she goes, you know what, sweetie? She said, we're going to catch you, and you're going to be crying like a baby. And she just starts really hammering me,
Pissing you off.
Oh, yeah, and condescending. And she kept calling me sweetie, sweetie, sweetie. And, she's like, we're going to catch you. I go, well, what's taking, I said, you're so sure, what's taking you so long? And she goes, listen, she said, oh, you are cocky. I said, well, I'm not stupid enough to just turn myself in and hope for the best. And she said, listen, she said, here's what's going to happen. You're going to come back. You're going to see somebody, and a neighbor is going to recognize you. You're going to, or you're going to get pulled over by a police officer, and he's going to run your ID and find out that it's fake. She goes, or you're going to, what was the other thing?
All the shit that you just went through and beat.
Right. So she's like, or you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And I go, listen, let me explain something. I said, I've been pulled over and gotten multiple tickets in multiple names. I said, I just went to traffic school as a guy because I got so many tickets. I said,
Good for you.
I go, there's nobody in Tampa that I want to see. I said, so if you ever want to have this conversation in person, I said, we better figure out what I'm facing. And she goes, okay. She goes, all right. Let me call the U.S. attorney. So she says, give me your phone number, as if she didn't already have it. Like, she's probably got it. And she goes, give me your phone number. She said, and I'll call you back. And I went.
You had a burner phone, of course.
I had a burner phone. And this is so funny. I bought it. Like, I was traveling through Louisiana. I stopped in whatever is it, Baton Rouge, right off of that little tiny highway that shoots
Never
through
been
it.
to Louisiana.
Okay, it's just this little highway, like it goes through a swamp. Like, you can't pull off for miles. So, but I stopped at Baton Rouge or something. I could be wrong with the place, but I pulled off in what's like a racetrack or a Wawa. It wasn't that, but it was one of those big ones because it had a subway in it.
Okay.
So I pulled off. Maybe it was a Circle K or something. I pull off. I get gas. I've bought the burner phone at the 7-Eleven, and I walk, right into a Subway, get a Subway sandwich, and that's when I called. I'm sitting there calling. So I remember her saying, she goes, give me your phone number. I'll call you back in an hour. She goes, it's going to take at least an hour or two. So I'll call you back in like an hour. And I'm sitting there and I'm on my laptop figuring out, making lists of things I need to do to run this 100,000 up. So I go, nah, you know what? I said, you're probably tracking this. I said, I'm going to shut the phone off. So I'll call you back. And she goes, oh, get over yourself. She goes, you're not that important. And I remember thinking, yeah, like who do you think you are? Like you're not. You know what I'm saying?
Smart, man. You were right.
But I remember thinking, like, you're not like Osama bin Laden. Like they're not tracking you. Or they're fucking satellites following you. Like what? And I was like, but I still went, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to call you back. I'm going to shut off the phone. I'll call you back. And she goes, okay, call me back in an hour. I said, hang up the phone. When I later ordered my Freedom of Information Act, I found out she immediately hung up the phone, called the U.S. Marshals, gave them the phone number. They called Verizon, found out where that Verizon had been sold, and 2 U.S. Marshals got into a car in Baton Rouge and were headed to the 7-Eleven or Circle K, whatever it was. And I'm sitting there in the subway, just waiting. I didn't leave.
You just must have missed them. It must have been
What happened was an hour later, I called. She said, hey, I put in a call. I haven't got a call back. The U.S. attorney's name was Robert Mazakowski. He's now like the head U.S. attorney in the Middle District.
11th Circuit.
Right.
Which is actually Atlanta.
Okay.
Federal Circuit, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because he was just an assistant then. So I called. I said, okay. She was call me back in another hour. I said, okay. I hung up the phone, got in the truck, driving down the interstate on my truck, called back an hour later, talked to her, and she's like, look, we can do 7 years. He said 7 years. She goes, 7 years, and you cooperate against everybody else that you know, she said, and we can work it down. Or it might have been 7 years if you cooperate. I forget. But I remember thinking they only knew about Tampa and Atlanta. Like they didn't know about the 1.3 million. And I was
just
like,
took in South Carolina, North Carolina.
right.
Whatever
They
it was,
didn't.
yeah.
They didn't know that we borrowed like a 50,000 in Tallahassee. They didn't know about the credit cards. They didn't.
And they're gonna find them all once they got you.
Yeah, they're done. It's a paper trail. You know what I'm saying? Like you could rob 30 houses. They catch you for 3. They don't know about the other 28. Or 27. So you can I'm not that lucky. Like there's a paper trail. So I was like, okay, well, look. She goes, look, and then she told me something about queen for a day or king for a day. Like if you come in, because I said, look, what if there's stuff you don't know about? She goes, then you come in, you tell us about it before we know about it. We won't charge you with it. And I was like, okay. And I was like, she goes, so look, so she's trying to get me to come. She goes, then she starts saying, you can turn yourself in at your parents' house. We'll let you hang out, visit with your parents for a couple hours. You can see your son. Your ex-wife can come and see you. We'll let your family. We'll let you stay there.
Don't believe one fucking word of that shit. Man.
Listen, it's like she's dangling a carrot. Like
man,
I was like,
what do you think I am? Fucking stupid. I just fucking on a run for a year. I'm not an idiot. You fucking.
I was an idiot because I really thought that was going to happen.
Oh,
you're the first person to ever tell me that wasn't going to happen. You feel? Are you saying that the FBI would lie?
Oh my god.
So, but as we're going back and forth, I said that includes everything. Includes Atlanta and some other stuff. And she's like, "Look, turn yourself in Tampa." And I went, "Okay, well, I'm closer to Atlanta. What if I turn myself in Atlanta?" She, no, because the Secret Service had Atlanta. They hadn't consolidated everything. So she wanted me to come all the way back to Tampa. I said, "Yeah, but what if I get caught on my way back to Tampa?" I said, I'm
Wow, you're really.
I was really
thinking of this.
I was thinking about it, but I was like, and I went on, and she goes, "Okay, just turn yourself." I go, "Well, wait." First of all, I said, I want better than 7 years. I said, and 2, I said, I at that point, I made the mistake of telling her I wouldn't cooperate against anybody because I felt at that time, I do not believe this now, by the way. But I really thought I wasn't going to say anything. I didn't want to cooperate against my friends, the people.
They already told on you.
Even though they're telling my first case when I said I got in trouble, I hadn't been indicted yet. My lawyer told me, if you cooperate, I can keep you from being indicted. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So looking back, I think I should have gone and ratted out every single person I fucking knew.
Especially that's a big. In other words, obviously having nothing on your record compared to being a convicted felon on the lam, forget about it.
Yeah,
now
but now I'm done. Yeah, I was done. But that was the first time. But so anyway,
most people actually get 3 strikes that way. The first one's a probation or bullshit one, The next one is, oh, we'll give you a couple of years, and they do. And before you know it, the third one's a stupid bullshit, and you are done.
Yeah, yeah. Now you're really
Yeah, you're
like it
fucking done.
get hit so hard the third time. You're like most people never make a comeback. So anyway, I'm telling her this. We're going back and forth, and I realize that she still has never once answered my question of whether the 7 years includes Atlanta and the other stuff. And so as we're going back and forth, I keep saying, I've asked you like 3 times about Atlanta. I said, you won't seem to answer that question. I said, does the 7 years include Atlanta? And she goes, well, finally she goes, listen, we're going to catch you eventually. And I go, oh, mother. And I said, listen, man. I said, does it include Atlanta? And she goes, well, that's between you and the U.S. attorney in Atlanta. And I said, oh, hell no. And I said, you know what, lady? She goes, well, lady, I can call them. And I said, I wouldn't believe you if you told me water was wet. And I remember I
Surprised
threw
you
the phone
with
out.
not having a lot of experience with the system. You knew that, she's trying to convince you. You know how they are. They know just enough. Listen. I've been interrogated so many times. I remember when I get interrogated, they show me a picture. It's my boss, a mob boss, a captain, works straight for Paul Castellano, and he says, "Do you know him?" I don't know that guy. 8x10 glossy. Next picture, me in front of a club in Brooklyn with him. And I go, wow, I go to the place. I live right near there. Next picture's me in his Jaguar. I remember exactly where they took that fucking picture from. I said, well, you dropped me off at the train station and shit. He was a pretty good dude, though. FBI laughed. He major case squad from Quantico. He goes, I get it. I said, hey, fucking, what am I going to do? There's no options here. I mean, and especially, in that business, I thought about my life. It's not a life because I was the one who was the violent one. I thought about it as my son and my daughter. Actually, to this day, they say, hey, listen, your reputation was so impeccable on the streets. And I was off for 3 years and keep my money. And I didn't do it. And you know how hard that is. I mean, obviously, it's very hard. And I had thought about it in prison, looking in that stainless steel bullshit, fighting for my life and fucking, and they hated me, so they threw me over diesel therapy. Been on Con Air 16 times. Fucking, I fucking went the whole fucking route. These guys, I hate. I had a ward named Lamana. To this day, that's cocksucking prick motherfucker. That fucker he actually works for the private prison systems now. John Lamana. He hated me so much because I was in the hole for 3 years, but I fucking was fighting him legally. I got smart with the law. And that's when I started winning. And he actually, I had a fucking, one of the OSHA guys in the prison come to me and say, Lawton, he goes, I don't know what you're doing, but man, you got the warden cursing you out in meetings. Now, who the fuck's a warden? Talk about one inmate,
Right.
But I got really good at the CFR, which is a Code of Federal Regulations. So I fucked with them fucking royally when I realized how to do it. I tried the fight route. Goon squads, shocked, concussion grenaded, maced, all that bullshit, man. I don't wish that on anybody.
I hurt a CO's feelings one time.
Well, I was strapped down naked, pissed on, and beaten. And literally 4 points. The FBI came into play and actually fucking they arrested. I had a fucking warden, a social worker. Why are you fucking like that? I go, why'd you fucking abuse that guy with no legs? Don't fucking talk to me. Talk to that congressman that's busting your ass now. Because I ended up learning how to write senators and Congress.
Yeah, they don't want to get.
They don't want to deal with that
somebody
shit
outside the prison,
right?
Or they don't want anything to leave the prison.
You know it, yeah.
Like that's
you both know it, right? Yeah.
They ignore you up to when it's going to go to like Grand Prairie, and then they call you in the lieutenant. So let's talk about this.
Right, I was the region. I'd go to region, then of course I went right to. I sued fucking the Attorney General of the fucking United States, John Ashcroft, the Bureau of Prisons, Harley Lappin. I fucking sued them all. I sued them for jacking off and won. They put me in a hole for fucking masturbating in prison. You believe this shit? It's in the records. Then what they do, right before the case, they start putting me on diesel therapy so I lose my legal work. Well, I knew how to fight that. They ended up fucking saying, listen, we're going to change policy. Is this going to be dropped? I didn't give a fuck, yeah. Because I was in my bunk. I wasn't on a fucking, girl guard or some shit like a fucking monkey jumper. I was fucking a guy that fucking, was in his bunk at 1 o'clock in the morning. I had a fucking porn. They had the Pirates and the Privates, those fucking magazines. And I'm fucking jacking off to the fucking magazine. And, what everybody does. You going to tell a man he can't jack off now? I jack off today. What the fuck's the difference? And I said to him, they fucking 1 in the morning. Lawton, lock up. What? Lock up? What the fuck did I do? My buddy Collini, he did 27 years. He comes here all the time. He's a good friend of mine. I helped him when he got out. And he goes, Lawton, what the fuck did Larry do now? Because I was always in trouble.
Right.
And I go, what the fuck? I don't have no idea. It's 1 a.m. You know, when you're in your cell and it's light, you can't see outside. You know what I'm getting? You know, it's that way of the light. I go down to the box and fucking, the guard on the box, the lieutenant has to come check in. They got you in a little cage now, little like a fucking like a phone booth shit to change out. And I'm fucking, the lieutenant goes, and he starts laughing. You know, I've been in a whole fucking, I'm crazy anyway. He goes, he fucking starts laughing at me. The fuck you laughing at, motherfucker? I'm in the hole. He goes, jacking off? I go, what? Yeah, they got you for masturbate. In my fucking cell, on my fucking bed. I'm in a solo cell. I said, get the fuck. I'm like, fucking want to, I don't even know I had hair. I didn't even have hair then. I was shaving it all. And I fucking, they couldn't believe that one. Then they throw me on the fucking ride. But anyway, look, you got me all going crazy.
Nicholas, what like, you seem normal.
Yeah, no, he's not normal. He can't work. I told him he got to that point when he's with me for about 8 months. I have to kill him. He can't leave.
I was gonna say, listen, we have Colby, my editor, Colby and Connor. Connor works for Colby, and like these are two of the most straight and narrow.
My
guys.
editor is too.
Right. And so they'll be sitting there, and the guy's, sitting there talking, and then he's like, so I pull a baseball bat out, and I hit the guy in the head, and I look over it, and and Connor won't be paying attention. All of a sudden, he'll look.
Shit, wait till I'm on that fucking show. Forget about it. He'll go crazy. I have an editor like that too. He's in Canada actually. He's been with me now 3 years at the beginning, and he's the most straight, normal fucking kid. I fly him down here, meets my daughter and my son. We get them all fucked up on shots. I says, if you can fucking survive my kids, you'll be all right. But go ahead. So now you don't turn yourself in.
No, I throw the phone out. I drive back to Charlotte. We had where I left my car.
Now you're alone.
I'm alone.
You're liking that a little bit.
This is funny because everybody always says like, bro, weren't you always looking over your shoulder, always worried, always? The truth is, and this isn't popular to say, obviously. I know what the right thing to say is, but the truth is that listen, the 3 years, like that was like the best part of my life. Like that was a great feeling. It's just you. It's you figuring out how to make things work. There's nobody to call. You can't call if something goes wrong. There's nobody to call. It's just you. It's you and your wits against people that are looking for you. And you feel, like, and I've said this 1,000 times, like to walk into a bank and hand them a bunch of fake documents and have them hand you a check for $250,000 and walk out, like it's the best feeling you've ever had.
Same as when I robbed the jewelry store. When I walked out of there, the money was something, but I always wanted to be that fly on the wall. I'm walking, I take over the whole fucking store. I once had 10 motherfuckers tied up in the motherfucker. One guy was fucking, hey, and I got tied up. I said, well, this guy's got to be a fucking cop. I go up to him, I take his wallet. What the fuck? He had a gold band, and I went to the GI Institute. I know diamonds. That's my business. Like
Right.
you know your business. They get to know your business. So I'm like, this motherfucker. And that is the girls, a couple other people in there, about eight or 10 people. I ran out of fucking flex cuffs. I was doing the feet, and the fucking I look him up, and I fucking take his wallet. He's got no fucking god. He's not a cop. He's a nobody. I take the bracelet off him, and I never touch people's private jewelry. That just wasn't my thing.
Right.
Obviously, if they put it in there for get cleaning, it was gone. But so I take his bracelet off, and it's fake. I looked at him. I said, "You phony Fugazi, Fugazi, you Fugazi motherfucker!" And I threw. And the fucking girls who worked behind the counter start laughing. They're all tight because this guy must have busted their chops and shit. I said, "You piece of shit! You're lucky I don't fucking shoot you." And they ended up fucking, he gets. I don't know what the fucking guys were, but I've had crazy reactions in robberies, from laughing to crying to, different things happen with different people. Well, go ahead.
No, I was gonna. I don't know where I was. Oh, I know. I went back to Charlotte.
I'm sorry, I fucked you up there.
I went back to Charlotte to get my car. I don't have a car, right? And the IDs, all my fake IDs were at Becky's. Like we put them in storage. We put all my stuff in. So the U-Haul van's empty. I'm driving an empty U-Haul van. She took I left everything. Like it's like, okay, I got to get away. And I tried to leave her before. Like I'd left a few times. She would call over and over and over again. So this time when I left, I actually threw my phone on the counter and left because I said, I can't come back. Like, this girl's going to get me arrested. And she'd had the cops show up before, screaming and hollering, where I bolted and they showed up and they were like, listen, you're screaming. We're getting phone calls. If we had shown up and there's somebody here, somebody's got to go to jail. So but luckily I took off.
Fucking psycho bitch.
So, but she would call and start crying and say, and I was literally on the phone one time when they knocked on the door. So I hear the whole conversation. So she called, I'm sorry, I messed up, I'm like, she's like, I stopped taking my medication. I'm sorry, I thought I was going to be okay. And so the point is I realized I'm done.
Surprised you're not gay now. I mean, just to get away from those fuckers.
It would have made prison much really easy,
been
right?
easier.
So I go back. So I got a call. I'm looking for my car. I got to go get my car. I parked I actually dropped the U-Haul van back off. Dropped it off. Take a taxi back to the place. Go up. Get my car. And when I got my car, I remember thinking, if I can get to my car and there's nobody watching the car, I'm okay. I'm okay. So I get the car. I drive out of the parking garage. Go downtown or drive across the street to a Starbucks. Think I'm going to get a Starbucks and I'm going to go to Nashville, Tennessee because I like country music. So I go into the Starbucks and I'm walking the Starbucks and I order I order a drink and I'm standing there waiting and I look over and there's two people from the apartment complex staring at me. Now it's about the fifth. I didn't pay my rent because I was on the road. So I look over and they're like looking at me weird, like they're whispering and and I was like, and I thought this must be my rent, right? Because of my rent. Like maybe they just put something on my door, whatever. It's due by the 3rd. I don't know. And then all of a sudden the woman leaves. She runs out the back entrance and she goes and she takes off and I'm sitting there. And what it actually was happening was that the U.S. Marshals were at the apartment complex questioning them about me because I was driving a vehicle that was registered to that address when they picked me up in South Carolina. So they had tracked me back. It had only been a few days. So 3 days later,
They were on you, man.
Right. So, and I didn't know that, once again, Freedom of Information Act. Didn't know that at the time. I remember when I got caught, I was saying, yeah, the FBI almost got me. And they were like, the FBI never almost got you. That was a marshal, right?
Fugitive apprehension team.
Right. So I got the thing in one day, and that's like in my book, like I have dates and everything because you get the Freedom of Information Act. Like I don't remember what day it is, but you get that, and you know.
FOIA. Yeah.
Right. So I end up anyway, I'm sitting there, I get my coffee. This guy gets his coffee, he just stands there and stares at me. I get mine 2 minutes later, I walk off, I get in my car, start my car, put the coffee down, playing with the radio, check, I'm about to pull out. He's standing on the sidewalk staring at me. And all of a sudden he starts screaming, he's right here. And I look up and I look in the rearview mirror. There's two guys running towards the back of the car. But I had already started the car. I've already made, I was leaving. So, I mean, it sounds dramatic. But, I mean, I literally just, boom, hit the fucking gas and boom, take off. But, they were whatever. They were 200 or 300 feet away from me. You can cover that. Like, literally, if this guy had not have said anything, or if I had done anything different, I think they probably would have got into the car. And I'm not you. If they got into the car, I'm not running somebody. I would have, if they just stopped it and said, get out of the car, I would have shut the car off and got out. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to be like, and have them hanging on, to the roof or anything. That's not going to happen. Like, so I take off. I drive.
Yeah, you never had a gun, right? Because I don't
No.
see anywhere you had a firearm in your case.
No. I
Which is good. I mean, for law.
Right. Well,
I used a BB gun.
It's funny. The girl I ended up getting caught with, she was ex-military. She had a gun that had been stolen. They just had a receipt. They charged me with a gun. They dropped it because I was like, look, I'm going to go to trial. I'm not going to
do it. And you, that's a smart move.
Right. And you know why I did that? Because a guy in the unit, he said, if you take that gun with the amount of time you're going to get and your sentence, he goes, you're going to a pen. And I was like,
absolutely.
I remember he looked at me. He goes like this. He goes, and I'm not saying you can't take care of yourself, Cox. And I go, well, I can't. I can't take care of myself.
I don't want to go there.
I can't. I said, look at me. You can't send me to a pen. I'm adorable. It's not going to go good for me. And he goes, I'll be honest with you, it's not going to go good for you. And he's like, you're just not a big guy. You're not tough. You're not. He goes, and you could, even if you tried.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Size I never worried about the biggest guy. I worried about, we had crazy fuckers that were, we had 200 guys, psycho. Literally, we had 880 lifers.
Yeah, he said, he's like, you're just not a street guy.
Yeah, you see, I grew up in the streets, and that's, from Rikers Island, everything, you do. So it's just a different animal. And plus, I had a lot of connections with the mob. So the mob bosses and people
Yeah,
knew, and they were made number. But you still had a psychopath place. I mean, we had one guy that cut a guy's head off with a shank, literally cut his fucking head off with a shank. I tell a couple of stories on shows, but this is you. Keep it going.
I was gonna say, like, it's funny, the mob guys would show up and they'd have shower slides for them. They'd have new tennis shoes. They'd have
I had a
they
whole bag. I had a whole bag.
Right.
A whole good ditty bag. Actually, on the yard, I went to Vic Arena, mob boss for Columbus. After I actually suitcased the fucking a note through the system to give it to him from somebody else. When I gave it to him, and then somebody said meet Vic. Vic wants to meet you on the yard at 6:00. Okay, and I didn't even know what the note was actually. Anyway, he goes, hey, you're good. Now I know he made his calls and stuff because I gave it to him before count. And after that, then I come out. There's like you said, a ditty bag, slides, fucking shorts. The whole fucking works. And I'm like, wow. He goes, yeah, we come here every day. And then I got into all that politics, and I hated that shit too. So I said, fuck that. The mob politics I call it, but it's all stupid.
I say I'm wearing bus clothes for 3 days till they gave me my
fucking slides.
Stuff. So
you get away there. When
off.
do you get caught? Where does the fact? You're on the road long 3 years though.
Yeah, 3 years. So I end up going to Nashville. Go to Nashville, rent a place immediately. I didn't even have I don't have an ID. I don't have anything. But I was driving through Green Hills, nice area in Nashville. A guy was putting a sign in the front yard. These are like $1 million houses, and he happened to have like a duplex, but it was like a townhouse, right? He's putting a sign in the front yard. I whip in there. I'm driving a brand new Infiniti G35. It was brand new. Pull in, get out, walk out. Hey, can I see the place? Look at the place, come back, say, look, how much do you want? He says, this much. I pull out cash. Can I sign a lease? What do you need from me? And he's like, yeah, you look like a nice young man. Just give me the first month and the deposit. And I was like, nice. I'm going to like Nashville. Like they're trusting.
Nashville's great. It's the bachelorette capital of the world. Yeah, I went through there with my RV. Yeah, it really is. What a party fucking place.
So I do that, start get into that place, start buying property. Like very quickly, I had survey a bunch of people, immediately buy a bunch of properties, record them at the higher value, start that whole process. I borrow like $3.5 million over the next year. I start dating this chick, and
never worried about somebody recognizing you really.
It's funny. No, and the only time, so that actually happened one time where I was in a closing and I just started signing the documents and the lawyer was explaining it and he stopped and he looked at me. He goes, "Can you hold on a second?" I went, "Sure." He folded up so this is my package. He took it with him, which was weird. I remember thinking, that's the only reason I remember it, because it was weird. He took it with him, went in the back, looked at my my wanted poster. He had it at the title. They were mailing them out to title companies. So he looked at it, but by that point, I'd had 2 hair transplants. I'd had a nose job. I had a facelift. I had my teeth done. So I'd had all this work done. And he looked at me and he thought, that looks a lot like the guy, but this guy's wanted out of Georgia. This guy came from Florida a few months ago, got transferred. He was on the job for 5 years in Florida and then came here, and that was in South Carolina. And he thought, that can't be the same person. And for some reason, even though it said identity theft, it
didn't relate.
He bank fraud, identity. He didn't put it together. Came back in and said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Sullivan. Go ahead and keep signing."
Wow.
Sign. Walk out with a check for $100,000, $150,000, whatever it was.
He could have just fucking made a call to double check, and it's over.
Right. Another time, I was in a Starbucks, and I remember walking into a Starbucks, and there were a couple of cops. You get in there, you're standing in the line waiting. I look up, and there's 2 cops staring at me. And they're glancing at me, and a couple other people glanced at me. And this is after I'd been caught in the bank. And I remember thinking, what the fuck? Like, for all I know, I'm on the front page right now. Like, what are you doing? And I used to go to Starbucks religiously, like 2-3 times a day.
Same one too, probably.
Well, no, this was when I was in Nashville.
What I'm getting at is wherever you went to.
And I always ordered the same thing. But I'm sitting there and I'm looking and I'm thinking, no. And I remember thinking, like, my car's right. Like, what am I going to do? I don't even know where I am. I'm not running. I'm not outrunning them. And they're looking and looking, and these other people are looking, and all of a sudden these 2 girls are looking. The girl walks up to me and looks at me and looks just over my shoulder, and she goes, "Oh my God, can I get your autograph?" And it was Keith Urban was standing behind me.
Oh my God.
And
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
like-
I like country music. I fought for the TV room. I had a fucking much.
And he's like, "Oh, sure, love, no problem." And he signs an autograph. And I mean, I was like,
Holy
Like-
shit.
terrified.
Can I have an
Terrified.
autograph?
Oh, listen, I wanted to hug him right then. Like,
Yeah.
oh, thank God. But so that was it. So anyway, I go to Nashville. I do the same thing. I run up the flat values. I start a bunch of fake people. They actually weren't fake. They were just homeless people. And within 6 months, I'm borrowing money. I end up borrowing like $3.5 million from Nashville banks in Nashville. The total is like between $16 million. Like the $11.5 million in Tampa, the other stuff on the run, the $3.5 million. So you add it all up, it's like $16 million. But my girlfriend at the time, I was seeing this girl. She moves in. Her name was Amanda, and she and I start seeing a friend of hers. Right. So we start seeing this other girl. She comes over every once in a while, and we're going on vacations and everything. And Amanda knows who I am. She finds out who I am. It was harmless the way she found out. But I'm in love. I trust her. She's not going to do anything.
Wow.
So we find out. She finds out that Dateline NBC News is about to come out, and they're running this thing because by this time they've caught Becky, and Becky was a gangster. Like they grab Becky, they bring her all the way to the marshal's office. And she's denying she's going, and she has real driver's license in the name of another name. And she's going, "Y'all are going to lose your job. You've embarrassed me." They said she bitched and moaned for an hour. They said until we put her hand on the scanner.
Fingerprint thing.
And she goes, "All right, I'm Rebecca Howell." She goes, "What do you want to know?" And I remember, listen, when they grabbed me, they said, "You're Matthew Cox." I was like, "Yes, I'm Matthew Cox." I mean, so anyway, what happens is we find out we're going to be on I'm going to be on Dateline. And there's nothing I can do about Dateline. Dateline's in what am I going to do? Even if I were to be able to relocate and nobody recognized me and start over somewhere else, like they're going to have reruns. This is going to constantly become, I'm thinking, leave the United States, go somewhere isolated.
That was my next question because that's what I would have.
Australia. I already had
I don't
a passport.
give a shit where it is.
Right.
I'm getting out of the fucking country.
So we figured Australia.
South America somewhere.
Well, Australia at that point if you went to Australia with $100,000 and a business plan,
You become a citizen.
you became a permanent resident alien. You could become a citizen, but they needed to fingerprint you. But you could become a permanent resident alien. You can't vote, you can't take a job, but you could open a business. And that was
Costa Rica was like that too.
yeah. I think there's a few people that have a economic citizenship kind of thing. But Australia, you didn't have to run they did a search, but you didn't have to do an FBI search, right? So that's what we were doing. We were pulling money out of the banks, and we were giving people checks. Can you cash this check? Like employees, people that are building new houses for us, that kind of stuff. And Amanda ends up giving a couple of checks to Trina, the girl we were seeing, and Trina goes and pulls. And Trina, it sparked a conversation.
Now, that was the threesome you guys had,
right?
Yeah.
And so it sparks a conversation between the two of them, and she tells her, "We're leaving. He's wanted. His name's Matt Cox. He's wanted." And
And
this is
tells
what's
the
happening.
name and everything. Oh
Well,
fuck!
And so Trina looks it up. She calls and negotiates a reward of like 10 grand. Like it was embarrassing. It was like $10,000. Like I'd have given you $500,000. Like I'd have given you everything I had for a 10-minute head start. Like, and for 10 grand, she gets 10 grand, and she tells them where I'm at, and they stake out the house. And then one day they call me, and I come home, and they arrest me. Right.
Always a fucking
Anticlimactic.
No, it's not. It's not really. I mean, yeah. I mean, the FBI just did great work. I mean, I can't even bitch. I mean, they were good, and they weren't assholes either, man. I knew the game, so they let me take money out of my pocket, take good sneakers off, because I know I'm fighting. Yeah, I went right to a fucking jail when I first one of the times I got arrested, I was in Miami-Dade jail. This is when I was out. And I get arrested off of a cruise ship for burning down I burned buildings. I did a lot of bad things. So this fucking guy owed me money. Anyway, I go to Dade County Jail. I get arrested off a cruise ship. I didn't know that they did this. They ran your name. I'm in Dade County Jail right after Hurricane Andrew. So there's no electric, nothing. So they got 32 guys in a 16-man pod. I'm the only white dude. So I said, I know what time it is. I go up. They were playing Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I go up. I turn the fucking channel. Because they have what they call a house man in the county jail. The first one was to say something. I'm going to smash him. And I could hit. So I fucking, boom, I smash him. You know, I get up. He gets up. You know, everybody, what's this crazy guy? Bam! And you don't go down. I ended up breaking my hand. I see a teeth mark in my hands and all that crazy shit. So I hit him. We get to fighting. I mean, fucking fighting. And my throats, I fucking, so they take me out. And, you know, this is the house man. They take me out. I'm all bloody. You're in your street clothes. They throw me back the next day into the same fucking pod. He looks at me. I look at him. He knew. He was a gangster guy. He goes, I get it. You're all good. You're good. He threw another guy off a bunk. I get the bunk. Fucking, and you know, you got to do what you got to do in those places because it was a zoo of fucking. I've been in bad county jail from Rikers Island to Elizabeth County, New Jersey, and some crazy shit. When they put me on diesel therapy, what they do is they take you on a plane, then they drop you off. They dropped me once off in Rhode Island to go to fucking court in Pennsylvania. So they bust me. They take me from fucking Florida to Rhode Island. What the fuck am I going to Rhode Island? Or was it Atlanta? Tallahassee, because that was one of the stops, if you remember.
Yeah.
It was a women's prison. I've been through that holdover a bunch of shit. You know, I heard all about the crazy women, the dildos they make, and all the crazy shit with their pads and all this shit. And I'm like, this is fucking good shit. He goes, Lawton, man. One of the guards, you know, it was a penitentiary because I was always in a black box. Too.
I was going to say,
Fuck
I was going to ask you that.
Fuck, I hate those motherfuckers.
I don't think they do it anymore.
Really?
I talked to people that they said, like, you have to have, like, a life sentence or something to be black box now. Because when I went to court and came back, the only guys were guys in the pen that had black box, that had sentences, and I didn't have one. When I first got arrested and sentenced and sent, I had a black box on. But
no, they didn't do it to anybody. I mean, you had to have either violence in your record or your escape risk. I was in when the old days when they had 4 murders at Lewisburg. I was in Lewisburg in J Block. They put me from Lewisburg, and at that time, this is '96, and now it's the beginning of '97. Towards the end, mid '97, guard. Now Lewisburg, the guard goes, "Man, what did you do? What the fuck? I'm getting transferred to fucking Atlanta." He goes, "You're going to Atlanta? Oh, you know where you're going?" I said, "Fucking Atlanta." He goes, "Man, you ain't gonna do good there, man. You're a white boy. This is a white guard, you know, big in." That was like prepping myself, and I got you. You know, again, you survive anything. You would. People survive. They adapt. You know, I mean, you just become more of an animal. That's the sad part. It really is. That's why I'm happy to be somewhat normal, at least a little bit.
Right?
Yeah.
But anyway, but that's not my story. So now your story is you end up getting 26 years.
26 years.
Did that fucking FBI or
It was a bad day.
would that FBI agent ever see you?
Of course.
Did she
She
fuck-
questioned me. She came in and they interviewed me for like I think 3 or 4 days. You know, she talked to me and I remember when she took the cuffs off me and I sat down, she said, "I told you we were gonna get you eventually." And I was just like,
Mrs. fucking Jago
yeah,
over there.
you know, and I remember I was rubbing my, you know, my wrists and stuff, and she goes, "Your wrists hurt?" And I go, "Yeah." And she goes, "Get used to it." I mean, she had nothing
Yeah.
but one snide.
Yeah, what a fucking cunt.
So it's funny that you
I
mentioned.
shouldn't use
sorry.
that word right now.
So you mentioned FBI. You said they were like the FBI to me were at least her and they were extremely unprofessional. The Secret Service were super polite, super nice, very professional to me. You know, but
See,
this woman,
mine was
she was
different.
a miserable person.
Mine was different. The FBI was cool. Matter of fact, I was arrested by the FBI and the marshals. And it was funny because I was the godfather of the mayor's city. I bought the fucking city. I had everybody locked down in the city in South Florida. And so I would have known any investigation comes. Fucking the FBI, I didn't even tell the police the fucking they would come with a helicopter. Fucking they knocked the road off. And it was fucking a big deal. And my neighbors fucking like, holy fuck. They didn't know I was a gangster. I own nightclubs. I own play. They didn't know at the level, you know. And then when they shut streets down and shit, it's like, oh shit, man, you know. And then this is on a Monday at 5 o'clock at night, you know. And my wife's freaking out. I got a 15-month-old daughter. And I said, listen, call the lawyer, you know the drill and all that kind of shit. And the FBI, though, they did. I told you, they set me down on the curb right in front of my place. You know, they took people out of there. I say, listen, can I take my, I'm going to jail. Can I take my shoes? Because you had nice sneakers. Oh, yeah. How about my Rolex, my watch? It's the fucking FBI. Cash, about $3-4 in my pocket. I didn't give it to the wife. I mean, it wasn't an asshole. They caught me. They didn't give a shit. And then when I was interviewed, even by the major kid, he goes, I was looking for you forever. He goes, I'm retiring. He did. He ended up retiring. And he goes, you were the best I've ever seen do it. He goes, they didn't know who I was, but they had the MO. And I didn't know all this until, take the FOIA's request that they put a task force together. Anytime there was an MO in my case, they flooded an area with agents and shit. And they confiscated every camera of every 7-Eleven, Wawa, all that shit in an area to place me there. And when I did over 20 stores and millions and 15, 18 million. But you don't get 18. I mean, that you did the right crime. I mean, I don't think there's no right crime.
Yeah.
Really, there
Is
isn't
there?
no right crime. Honestly, I tell young people, listen, you're gonna get away with things. Listen, I did my whole life, but then you're gonna lose a lot of fucking chunk in it.
I was gonna say, people ask, I was, the guys in the comments, right?
Yeah,
Like,
of
and some of them, I don't know about you, but I get some of the guys that's just over and over and over again. You get to know them.
Oh yeah,
Like, who's-
absolutely.
So-
I got a girl. What's her name? She's was that a sheriff? Shit.
No.
Are you
I
fucking
saw-
with me? You ain't fucking want it, all right? You guys don't want it. What the fuck? Right in front of my house?
Stop it.
He ain't kidding. That's my mother.
Did something.
That's my mom. Mom, you're all right.
She's out here looking
Yeah.
at you.
Holy shit, I don't like. I gotta piss too, like a racehorse.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, we're gonna pee. Let's end this thing. 'Cause
Okay.
we're gonna end this thing. Everybody, we got a lot of police outside my door. What the fuck, Nick? Tell me next time.
He's been eyeballing it. He's been checking it out.
Yeah, keep an eye. I don't know what's going on.
This happened the other day, right?
No,
This one?
I've seen them all going by.
Wait, geez, would you?
No, no.
No guns on you, right? I'm going away forever.
No, just these.
Yeah, you're in shape, man. I ain't fucking with her, man.
Ugh.
Yeah, we didn't get into your story yet, Jess, but we're gonna some other
Oh,
time.
That's
man.
next time.
Some other time.
Yeah,
with how many people indicted on a meth case?
It was
60?
65.
65 fucking people. That's like that's a state shit. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
listen,
That's
Crazy.
the head guy on her case is in Coleman right now. Like,
Yeah.
it's
yeah, he's probably Penn 1 or whatever. I was in penitentiary with Taco. Taco was the head of the Outlaws, and a lot of these kids.
I was just talking about that the other day. The
Yeah.
outlaw guys that
Yeah, I know a lot of outlaws, man. Yeah, I did a lot of crazy shit with them. But anyway, we're gonna go. So you get arrested, you get 26 years,
Right.
you end up getting out in 12.
Yeah.
How did you
13,
do it?
roughly? So what happens is, of course, like they asked me, hey, this is what we know. These are all the people that have cooperated. I'm like,
and
absolutely.
it's proffer, absolutely.
Right. So tell them everything. They're saying, hey, we're going to indict people. This is going to help you out. Okay, fine. Like, I'm ready to snitch out. I'm ready to cut everybody's fucking head clean off their body to get out of this at this point.
You didn't have a conscience for that.
No, no.
See, I did.
These-
I went through thick and thin with guys,
Right.
and it was like, and people say that and they don't. I know how the game goes. Trust me. I've been around. I've been in the law for 10 years. I read more fucking briefs and fucking shit and cases with 5K1s, Rule 35s. The government don't go right. You can get a Rule 35 supposedly up to a year after. 4 years later, somebody's fucking trying the shit. And I get that. And I understand. But when I was with people, see, people get snitching wrong. If I do a crime with you, you and me are fucking going to do a robbery. And now you get caught and you snitch me out, that's a real snitch.
Right. Okay.
There's so many antigual like things. First of all, you don't know them.
Right.
Like a lot of people say, "Will you have Sammy Gravano on your show because he want to come on?" I said, "No, because I know the people he put away for no reason at all.
Right.
None. But obviously, and then he goes out and does the ecstasy deal again, gets 20
Yeah.
years. And listen, some people say you should. I debated a lot in my head because I'm past those days when I was a fucking psychopath. And, I lived that code. The code I find is bullshit with everything, like anything else. You got to listen. You got to live with yourself. You got to do what you're going to do. But I know me. If I just wouldn't want to see another guy's family for no reason at all. I mean, like, again, if I was a good friend with a guy, we're robbing, we're fucking making money, robbing. Like if you were sitting there and you got a guy and you're gonna run 3 years, you have him for you do the whole work, and then afterwards you get caught, I'm gonna get him so I can get off. I can't get to that. I can't, and I won't. And it's listen, the days of you're gonna shoot somebody, man, there were days where fucking I used to want to catch somebody and then I would fucking shoot him and kill him and do something. I could
These are
care
white collar guys.
yeah.
I'm
oh,
not.
absolutely. You know what they are? They're fucking gonna. They're already told
Yeah,
already
they've
on
already-
themselves or whatever. They're fucking. I totally get that.
Well-
Even the drug trade, you get low level people doing this shit. What do you expect?
Right.
I said, listen, I never had that because nobody in my crew knew who my fence was, ever dealt with him. Nobody. There was one person. Buck stops here. Even the FBI said that when I said that. He goes, and they didn't try to kill me. There's no way they believed my story, but they didn't go for it. Because I was going to take it to trial all around the fucking country.
Right.
And then they how much costs it again. I would have beat some of them because they only had like 80% on a witness or something like that. So I knew I would have won some anyway because I never got caught with a gun in a store. I didn't shoot back. That's the whole
Probably
bunch
still
of shit.
be in prison. You'd probably still be in prison though.
Oh.
I mean, they don't need many of them to keep to stack them and
No,
you're just never getting out.
and that's the problem. But some of these federal judges I've dealt with, even as a friend now, or out when I deal with judges. I was out last night with 2 judges, and a lot of them, that's bullshit. The prosecutor intimidates you. You're gonna go in front of a judge. You're gonna get the. Some of them respect it. Say, wait a minute, I'm gonna give him what I was gonna give him anyway.
Right.
I know a guy did that, went to trial, and got less time that he was offered.
I've seen that happen very
Yeah,
seldom.
yeah, but I'm saying is so you got to understand the game you're in
Yeah.
and whatever. That's why I don't listen. You fuck a bunch of check writers, and I know a guy who did that. Who was a what do they call it? A fucking identity. Hacker.
Right.
I mean, really like a fucking black hacker where they fucking went into shit and government shit and everything. The government gave him a deal just to show him how he did it.
Right.
Good for him. I mean, fucking hey, if you can do that.
I interviewed a credit card counterfeiter that he got a 5K one because the Secret Service flew in like a team of guys and brought him everything he asked for, and they filmed him making the money just so that they could understand what he was doing.
Absolutely. And listen, you profit. I ended up I took a plea for 4 12-year sentences. Otherwise, I was getting life. I knew that. I was facing, once I beat the gun charge in a preliminary hearing,
Yeah.
I walked back to that fucking holding cell like I just fucking hit the lottery. And all these motherfuckers, drug dealers. Oh, my God. Shut the fuck up, man. You know what you were doing, especially some of the big ones. Oh, how many keys you get caught with? I love this. We only got 20 keys. Hello, motherfucker. 500 to 5 keys is automatic, 20 years. Over fucking that, it's automatic 10 of life. There's no, unless you do. That's how drugs work. I did the law for so long, for 10 years. And we got good at it. We won a lot of cases on ineffective assistance accounts with 2255s. And it kept me busy, kept me fucking educated. I got my law degree, all that kind of shit. I got the credits. I can't be a lawyer. I'm a felon. I
Right.
hate them fucking lawyers too. They're another fucking group we gotta fucking get rid of. But no, I'm only kidding. We're gonna close this up, man. I gotta pee like a fucking racehorse. Anyway, we do have cops out front. That's not really making me feel great. But we're gonna figure. And we're not talking one, are we, Nick? Fuck, Nick is good. We were in my RV. You'll love this quick story. We were in my RV. I have a big RV, 38 feet. I got a studio in it. It's got 2 bathrooms, the whole. So we go to Daytona with my buddy who's with Sirius Radio, Rude Jude, Rude Jude show, Sirius 45, XM 45. It's anyway, Sirius Radio, big guy. And we're in the fucking now. We're fucked and hammered. I'm fucking assed up, but it all works. So Nick's our driver, of course, taking it. So we get lost. It was my fault, I think. And Nick fucking doesn't tell me that the cops were following us for like fucking 5 miles or something, Nick. And I go, fuck, we get to the pizzeria. I'm fucking hungry. And he goes, yeah, well, I just got to let you know, guys, sit down. There's cops. What, motherfucker? Thank God he didn't tell me, but he's so, I said, listen, you be normal.
Well, he can be normal. He hasn't
be
done anything
normal, right?
wrong.
He's
Like
right.
he's not.
Well, that's
feeling,
why he's with me. So, that's a bad enough association. But anyway, I want to thank you guys.
Yeah.
You ended up getting 12. You ended up getting out in 12.
Yeah.
By just helping them do bullshit. How these scams work, pretty much.
Yeah, and I taught an ethics and fraud course, and I was
Really?
interviewed by American Greed and interviewed by Dateline, and I had to fight to get the reduction. We had to fight. Like I had to
Oh.
fight 2250. They wouldn't do it. They were like, "Yeah, it's not enough." What do you mean it's not? You
Oh,
told
yeah, you know my
me-
buddy Paulie, who does the law with me, 27 years. Him and I are very close. He looked you up because he does. He says,
Okay.
he goes, yeah. He's like, the guy could be interesting. He's funny. And then when I'll look it up, because I became really good at the CFR. This guy was one of the best lawyers I know to this day. 27 years in the joint. He did 30, he got caught with 100 keys. And
the best law
he got
work you're
30
gonna
years.
best law work you're gonna get is out of a guy that's locked up
Oh.
because he's not stressed. Like if you go to a lawyer out here and say, "Hey, I had 100 hours worth of tapes," then they're like, "Fuck, I gotta listen to at least that's gonna take at least 100 hours, and you're gonna pay me what? What am I getting paid? Like $400? That's $40,000. Like
100%.
yeah, and what if I stop the tape and I have to make notes and I have to do this?
And I
we
got to
have to
go home,
edit
and I
it?
got another case paying more, and this guy
Right,
is
right. So the nice thing about a guy
100%.
is they'll spend hours and hours and hundreds of hours fighting the case because to them they just want to win. They got nothing else to do.
I did the same thing. We won so many cases, and like you said, we just lived it and breathed it.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a lot of fun to keep you busy and stuff when you weren't fucking, playing cards or running a bookmaking operation in the joint. So other than that, I just want to thank you guys again, man. I had a lot of fun. I really did. I had a lot of fun today. We got to continue something. I'll help you whatever you need. Like I said, how what I did and how I did it with this. We got a whole bunch of shit coming out. And I got a TV show, a web series coming on with a TV series. A lot of shit we're doing. So, but I'll let you know. Listen, I'll give you what I know. And one thing I do like about YouTube, most people, most other creators and stuff help each other. I've
Yeah.
noticed that.
Yeah.
Like someone said, you shouldn't go on shows that are small. Fuck that. I want to help them. Somebody helped me along the way.
Right.
And I will totally do that, and give as much knowledge as I can or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
hey, listen, we all know it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
People think, oh, you just do this. No, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's fun. I enjoy it. It's a lot better than really working.
Yeah.
You can't
but-
just stop. You have to be consistent.
And
Yeah.
consistent and hard work and idea. You guys know that.
Yeah, it's
I
a
mean,
grind. It's a grind. I always say,
Grind.
listen, it's a grind. Like could it be better? Yeah, I could be Larry Lawton, but I'm not. And instead,
And,
I'm
and
gonna
I'm still working and figuring
I'm
shit
gonna
out.
grind it out. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna.
Good for you,
I'll
man.
get there someday.
And I'm gonna help you. Whatever you need, I'll give you a hand. All right, everybody. You just heard Matthew Cox. You got to check his show out, Matthew Cox Inside True Crime. I can't wait to look at some of your stuff, and maybe when I'm over in Tampa, I'll come on your show. We'll have a lot of fun there. I got crazy stories. So your guy that's gonna look, he's probably gonna want to leave the room, but I don't know.
Poor
And
guy.
thanks, Jess. I'd love to really talk to you. I ain't want to fuck with you with those guns and the body.
Good idea.
But ooh, I love
Yeah.
that. Oh, she's making me hard now.
I told Tyler. I told my buddy Tyler.
Okay.
Or Tyler. I said, listen. I said I'm bringing. He goes, well, he goes, Larry's kind of crazy. I said, no, it's okay. I brought
Jess. You want to
Jess.
go? Go ahead. Go
Oh,
first.
yeah. Oh, it's fine.
No, go. No, I'm saying go to the bathroom because I'm
Oh.
going to jump up and go
Okay.
too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
that's just-
All right.
No. Keep going. No.
No, I was gonna say that's what I told Tyler. I said, no. I said, he said, Larry gets crazy. I said, it's all right. I brought Jess. If I need somebody to take care of him, I got Jess. It'll be fine.
Well, because they know I always say it like it is. Period.
Right.
That's one of the things I said I will always do. When we do this podcast, sometimes the mailman comes in and people come in. We like it. That's why we call it that real deal. The sign, real deal, because I want it to be like you're sitting in the room with us, hanging out with us,
Right.
hearing your story. It's a great story, man. And very, you're a smart guy, Matt. Really.
I appreciate
Obviously,
that.
you know that. I mean, you could have did anything you want. You could have did business school, just like I could have. We're intelligent level.
Yeah.
Just that we just decided to go the easy
Yeah.
route,
Yeah.
our easy route.
I was gonna say they're just too cocky, too arrogant, too
We all were, and that's it.
desperate to show everybody how smart.
Mine was
I
a little different because if I got too cocky, someone was going to kill me.
Yeah.
But Matt, thank you very much. I really appreciate
Absolutely,
it.
I appreciate it.
And anything you need, we're going to go to lunch, and we'll see you in a bit. Everybody, stay tuned. Watch our next podcast. We might have some sex workers coming from, where is it? From Amsterdam. So that could be pretty good. We got a lot going on, everybody. So stay tuned. Have a great day, Matt. Again, good luck.
Sure.
People, make good choices, and I'll see you next time.